and in that quiet moment, the weight of empire seemed to rest upon her slender shoulders. Footsteps approached softly. Abdul Rahman emerged from the shadows, his warrior's frame moving with surprising grace. He paused a respectful distance away, his voice low and steady. These stars are most fortunate, my lady. They have gained the reach of your eyes. Alina turned, her expression a mixture of surprise and intrigue. You astonish me, soldier. By day a merciless warrior, by night a man of sentiment. I wonder which you truly are. Both, Abdul Rahman replied, his tone grave yet sincere. Yet my heart is not stone. From within his cloak he drew forth a small, carefully wrapped bundle and extended it toward her. If you would use this for the orphans, I would be glad. Even if they are the children of enemies? Alina asked, her voice softening. Children cannot be enemies, he answered. They are the hope of us all. She accepted the gift with gentle hands. For a long moment she studied him. Who are you? I have never met a man like you. Abdul Rahman remained silent, the weight of unspoken burdens heavy upon him. Alina stepped closer, her presence warm against the chill. I am glad I met you. Before more could be said, Despina appeared, her steps hurried. The night is cold, princess. You may fall ill. As you know, the Honorable Andreas wishes me to watch over you. With caring insistence, Despina guided Alina back inside, their figures vanishing into the torchlit corridors. Abdul Rahman lingered in the shadows, his mind drifting to another night, another confrontation. He recalled Despina's desperate words. You love me too, I know it. If you do not believe me, then so be it. I wish to die by your hand. He could have ended her life with his axe that moment. The blade had been raised. Yet instead he had cast the weapon aside and struck her with an open palm, a strike born not of hatred, but of conflicted mercy. The memory burned like an unhealed wound. Shaking off the vision, Abdul Rahman moved deeper into the castle's winding passages. Torches flickered along the stone walls, casting long, dancing shadows. Voices drifted from ahead, two commanders speaking in low, urgent tones. Are the wagons prepared? Nearly ready. They will reach Kaisal Tapa on time. Abdul Rahman froze, pressing himself against the wall. He followed at a careful distance as the commanders entered a dimly lit chamber where soldiers hurriedly carried out bundles of weapons, armor, and supplies. Hurry, one commander barked. The Shahanshah's forces will not linger long at Kaisal Tapa. They must be ready. We do not know when Orhan will move toward Ayodos and the Samanda forts, the other replied. From his hidden vantage, Abdul Rahman murmured to himself, so the Shahanshah prepares at Kaisal Tapa. He peered further into the room. A soldier asked, Is this enough? The commander nodded. It must be. The Shahanshah's detachments moved swiftly. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. Another Byzantine commander rounded the corner and spotted him. You! Orhan's spy, Abdul Rahman. Steel hissed as the man drew his sword and charged with a fierce cry. Abdul Rahman reacted like lightning. His blade flashed in the torchlight, meeting the attack with deadly precision. The clash of steel rang through the corridors. Soldiers fell before his fury as he fought his way forward, cutting down those who blocked his path. Shouts of alarm spread like wildfire. Seize him! Do not let him escape! He ran, heart pounding, boots pounding against ancient stone. Behind him, the commander and his men poured out in pursuit. Despina joined the chase, her voice sharp with betrayal. I knew his kindness would bring trouble. After him, capture the spy. The hunt intensified through the labyrinthine halls. Abdul Rahman moved like a shadow possessed, his sword claiming lives where necessary, mercy abandoned in the face of survival. Torches blurred past, arrows whistled. He dodged, parried, and pressed on. Meanwhile, far from the peril of Ayodos, the grand halls of Bursa Palace glowed with warmth and anticipation. Zarkan stood before Sultan Orhan Sahib with dignity. My Sultan, we come with pure intention. The brave warrior Evernos, leader of the frontier forces, and your sister Fatima Khatun have met and hold affection for one another. By the command of Allah and the tradition of the Prophet, peace be upon him, we seek the hand of your sister Fatima for our son Evernos. Fatima's face lit with quiet joy. Nelofar and Princess Aspoka smiled warmly. Gonja breathed a sigh of relief. Orhan Sahib was about to speak when Aladdin Sahib raised his hand. Wait, Zarkan Sahib, let us speak plainly first. We know the young man, but this is marriage, not a battlefield. Can he shoulder the responsibilities of a family? Can he honor my sister's rights? These are the questions that matter. I wish to hear your thoughts. Zarkan began to reply, but Nasu Jalabi interjected smoothly. Though Fatima Khatun needs no protection, our son will guard her with his life. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, Zarkan echoed loudly. He nudged Qasim, who patted Evernos encouragingly. He will. Aladdin turned to his sister. Fatima, my sister, what are your thoughts on this marriage? Brother, you know best, she replied softly. Aladdin nodded. Very well. You may go, honored guests. We will consider this. Evernos and Zarkan exchanged worried glances. Halima spoke up. Brother, do not create difficulties. My Sultan, will you say nothing? Orhan Sahib's voice carried the weight of experience. Brother, such matters do not come without sweat. When I sought Niloufar Khatun's hand, how your mother tormented me, only Allah and I know. Qasim added with youthful wisdom, Aladdin uncle, uniting those who love is a great reward. Why raise obstacles? Not everyone can elope like you did. These people came honorably. Let them marry. Aladdin and Gonja laughed. Allah, what a wise young man, Aladdin said. Very well, Qasim. Since you speak so and my sister has no objection, we require 1,000 goats. Zarkan blinked. 1,000 goats? Nasu Jalabi immediately produced a small ledger and began calculations. Aladdin continued, and 500 bolts of Bursa silk. 500 bolts? Zarkan repeated, sweat forming on his brow. Evernos looked increasingly anxious. Do not do this, Nasu tried to intervene, but Aladdin pressed on with calculated firmness, listing further expectations tied to the value of his sister. The negotiations stretched, filled with tension, pleas, and counter-offers. Sweat beaded on Evernos's forehead as the demands mounted. Finally, after much back and forth, Zarkan conceded. Enough, Aladdin Sahib, we accept. 1,000 goats and 500 bolts of silk. But please complete your words no further. Aladdin smiled faintly. Thus people come to the straight path. Orhan Sahib raised his hand. Since the customs have been fulfilled, there is no need for more. He turned to Malhun. Mother, do you wish to say anything? Malhun looked at Evernos with maternal concern. Evernos Sahib, I do not wish to see more tears in my daughter's eyes. Promise me. I promise, Malhun Khatun, Evernos vowed solemnly. Orhan's voice grew warm. Then my father's trust, my sister Fatima, most precious to us, I have given to you, Evernos Sahib. Joy erupted. Fatima whispered, all praise to Allah. Embraces followed, warm, heartfelt. Zarkan urged, kiss the hand, kiss the hand. Evernos stepped forward and kissed Malhun's hand with deep respect. Fatima did the same, then Orhan's. A small, intricately carved box was presented, the one Orhan himself had fashioned. Inside lay precious earrings. Fatima's sister, Orhan said, this is your betrothal gift. These earrings are a memory of my mother Halima. Live by our traditions and keep them close to you always. Fatima's eyes shone. My Sultan, you carved this with your own hands. I will treasure this box and these earrings all my life. Evernos kissed Orhan's hand. Fatima embraced Aladdin, who blessed her. Congratulations, sister. May Allah never disgrace you. Stay safe, she replied. Evernos embraced Aladdin warmly. Insha'Allah, much blessing. Fatima hugged Gonja. Orhan addressed Evernos with gravity. My sister Fatima, this marriage carries my hope that you conquer Rumelia and build a palace there. Today us, tomorrow those who follow. The Ottoman seal shall mark these lands through you both. We will fulfill your wish with our lives, my Sultan, Evernos declared. May Allah keep you in happiness, Orhan prayed. Ameen, Ameen, the gathering echoed. Yet fate wove two threads in the same night. Back in Iodo's castle, chaos reigned. Abdul Rahman fled desperately, Despina and her soldiers in relentless pursuit. Shouts echoed, do not let Abdul Rahman escape. He went that way, spread through the passages. Cornered in a narrow gallery, his path blocked, Abdul Rahman suddenly faced Princess Alina once more. Distant cries grew louder. This way, he is here! Alina's eyes met his. Without hesitation, she whispered urgently, come here, quickly! She pulled him into a hidden alcove, concealing him behind tapestries and shadows. Do not emerge until I call. Moments later, Byzantine soldiers burst into the area. Alina composed herself. I saw him. He fled that direction. Hurry. The soldiers charged off. Once they vanished, Alina drew Abdul Rahman out. You can escape through the rear battlements overlooking the forest. Go. Why do you help me? He asked, breathing hard. You saved my life once. Remember? I have not forgotten. Will you not ask what happened? If you wish, tell me one day. Surely if we meet again. Abdul Rahman moved to leave but paused. From his tunic, he drew a small token and pressed it into her hand. Until our next meeting, look upon this and remember me. Alina accepted it, her fingers closing tightly around the keepsake. Abdul Rahman vanished into the night, slipping toward the forest edge as alarms continued to sound across the castle. The fires of war still smoldered. Alliances formed in distant palaces while spies fled through enemy strongholds. Honor, betrayal, love, and duty intertwined like the threads of fate itself. The stars above Iodos watched silently, as did the heavens over Bursa. The conflict between Orhan Sahib and Shahanshah was far from over. Shadows lengthened. Swords waited. And the hearts of men and women beat with prayers for justice, for victory, and for the mercy of the Almighty, who alone knows the end of all paths.
As the first light of dawn touched the distant hills, Abdul Rahman moved like a ghost through the thick forests beyond Iodo's castle. His breath came in measured bursts, every muscle aching from the desperate flight. The small token he had given Princess Elena weighed upon his mind, a fragile bridge between enemy lines. Behind him, the castle's alarm still faintly echoed, but the trees swallowed his trail. He knew the roads to Orhan Sahib's camp well, through hidden valleys where only the bravest scouts dared tread. Hours turned into a grueling march. By midday, his clothes were torn and stained with the blood of those who had tried to stop him. Thirst clawed at his throat, yet he pressed on, driven by duty and the fire of loyalty. As the sun began its slow descent, he spotted the familiar banners of the Ottoman forward camp, green and white fluttering against the golden sky. Tarhan, ever vigilant, was the first to see him approaching. The elite swordsman rushed forward, intercepting him before the outer guards could react. "Abdul Rahman, by Allah's mercy you live," Tarhan said, gripping his shoulder firmly. "What news from the lion's den?" Inside Orhan Sahib's grand tent, lamps burned low as the Sultan sat in council with his trusted commanders. Damir Khan, Mahmud, and Altadin Sahib listened intently as Abdul Rahman recounted every detail: the wagons loaded with supplies, the whispered plans for Kaisal Tapa, the Shahanshah's restless preparations. Orhan Sahib's eyes sharpened like forged steel. "So the manipulator gathers his strength there. He thinks to strike at our flanks while we besiege Yodos." He rose slowly, his voice carrying the weight of destiny. "Tarhan, assemble 200 of our swiftest riders. Barhan Faladios, you will lead the vanguard. We move before the moon rises again." Barhan Faladios, the fierce commander whose rivalry with Yakid burned like hidden embers, bowed deeply. "My Sultan, I will turn their preparations into their graveyard. Let Yakid watch from the rear and learn what true loyalty looks like." The night deepened once more as the Ottoman forces mobilized in silence. Horses snorted softly, swords were sharpened by firelight, and invocations to the Almighty rose like smoke. Orhan Sahib walked among his men, offering words of courage. "Remember, this is not merely conquest. It is justice for the oppressed, honor for the fallen, and the will of fate unfolding. Allah is with those who stand firm." Meanwhile, within the cold walls of Yodos, tension thickened like storm clouds. Shahanshah paced the war chamber, his face twisted with growing desperation. Reports of the escaped spy had reached him, and with them the sting of betrayal. "How did one man slip through so many?" he demanded, his voice echoing off the stone. "Despina, you were responsible for order in these halls." Despina stood tall, though her eyes betrayed unease. "He was aided, my lord. I suspect Princess Elena's hand in it. Her heart softens too easily toward the enemy." Shahanshah's gaze turned icy. "Elena, always the dreamer, bring her to me." When the princess arrived, escorted by guards, she met her father's stare without flinching. "You helped the spy escape. Do not deny it. Your mercy may have cost us everything." "I saved a life that once saved mine," Elena replied quietly. "Is that not the teaching of justice you yourself once praised?" The Shahanshah laughed bitterly. "Justice? In war there is only victory or ruin. Yakid." He summoned the traitor figure, who entered with calculated humility. "You will prove your loyalty tonight. Take 300 men and reinforce Kaisal Tapa. Fail me, and your head will decorate these walls." Yakid bowed low, but his eyes flickered with dark ambition. "As you command, my Shahanshah, I will not fail." Yet as he departed, Barhan Faladios' spies within the castle whispered of his movements, seeds of rivalry already sprouting into future confrontation. Back in Bursa, the joy of the previous night lingered like perfume in the palace halls. Fatima Khatun walked with Evernose in the gardens, their hands brushing occasionally, the weight of new responsibilities settling upon them. "My brother has given us a great task," she said softly. "Rumelia awaits. Are you ready for such a burden, my husband-to-be?" Evernose smiled with quiet strength. "With you by my side, I would face 1,000 battles. We will build not just a palace, but a legacy that echoes through the ages." Zarkin and Nasa Jalabi oversaw the gathering of the promised goats and silk, their calculations stretching late into the evening. Qasim teased Evernose mercilessly yet supportively, while Aladdin Sahib watched with a protective eye. "Treat her as the treasure she is," he warned once more, "or you will answer to me, even across the seas." Orhan Sahib, having returned briefly to the palace, called his sister close. "Fatima, this union strengthens our blood and our borders. Go with honor. Carry the spirit of Osman in your heart." He placed a final blessing upon them both before turning his focus back to the looming campaign. As the moon climbed high once again, Orhan's forces struck toward Kaisal Tapa like a desert wind. Tarhan led the first charge, his sword flashing as they surprised an outer Byzantine patrol. Steel sang through the night. Arrows darkened the sky. Abdul Rahman fought at the forefront, his axe rising and falling with righteous fury, avenging the fear he had endured in Iodos. "Hold the line," Barhan Faladios roared, cutting down enemies with masterful strokes. "For Orhan Sahib, for the faith." The battle raged for what felt like hours. Flames rose from overturned wagons as Ottoman warriors set the enemy supplies ablaze. Shahanshah's reinforcements under Yaqub arrived too late to save the main cache, but just in time to clash directly with Barhan's men. The two commanders met in the chaos of combat, their blades locking in a personal duel that symbolized deeper fractures. "You call yourself loyal, yet you sell your soul to the highest bidder," Barhan shouted over the clash of steel. Yaqub sneered, "And you fight for a sultan who will discard you when convenient. Open your eyes, Faladios." Their duel was fierce, sparks flying as honor and betrayal collided. Tarhan eventually intervened, forcing Yaqub to retreat with heavy losses. The night air filled with smoke and the cries of the wounded. By dawn, Kaisal Tapa lay partially in Ottoman hands, a significant blow to Shahanshah's plans. Yet victory came at a cost. Several brave captains, Tamir Boga among them, lay injured. Orhan Sahib walked the battlefield at first light, offering prayers over the fallen. "Their sacrifice waters the tree of our empire. May Allah grant them paradise." In Iodos, news of the defeat reached Shahanshah like a dagger to the chest. He slammed his fist upon the table, maps scattering. "Orhan grows bolder. We must strike back before he reaches our walls." His desperation mounted, leading to harsher orders and growing murmurs of discontent among his own ranks. Princess Elena stood upon the same terrace where she had first spoken with Abdul Rahman, clutching the small token he had given her. She gazed toward the horizon, wondering if their paths would cross again in this storm of war. Despina approached her quietly. "You risk everything with your kindness, princess. The world is not gentle." "Perhaps it needs more of it," Elena whispered, "before the darkness consumes us all." Far away in the Ottoman camp, Abdul Rahman cleaned his weapons by the fire, his thoughts drifting to Elena's brave intervention. "She walks a dangerous path," he murmured to Tarhan, "yet her courage rivals any warrior I have known." Orhan Sahib gathered his commanders once more. "This is only the beginning. Iodos will fall, but not through brute force alone. We strike their supply lines, weaken their spirit, and offer justice to those who turn from the tyrant Shahanshah. Barhan, prepare your men for the next thrust. Abdul Rahman, your knowledge of their inner workings is our greatest weapon now." The fires crackled as oaths were renewed under the open sky. Prayers rose for strength, for victory, and for the protection of loved ones left behind. In Bursa, Fatima and Evernose made their own quiet vows, preparing for the journey ahead that would expand the empire's reach. Yet the war was far from over. Shahanshah plotted in shadows, Yaqub's betrayal simmered like poison, and the hearts of Elena and Abdul Rahman carried unspoken connections across enemy lines. Fate's wheel turned slowly, grinding empires and souls alike. The stars that had witnessed their first meeting now watched new battles unfold, as steel, honor, and destiny marched onward toward an uncertain dawn. The conflict between Orhan Sahib and the desperate Shahanshah would test the faith and courage of all involved. leaving no soul untouched by its fire. As the smoke from Kaisal Tapa still rose into the morning sky like the prayers of the victorious, Arhan Sahib stood upon a low hill overlooking the captured supplies, his cloak billowing in the wind. The taste of triumph was sweet, yet tempered by the knowledge that greater trials awaited. "This blow will sting the Shahanshah deeply," he said to Tarhan, who stood beside him, sword still stained with the night's labor. "But a wounded beast is most dangerous. We must press the advantage before he can regroup." Tarhan nodded, his eyes sharp as a falcon's. "My Sultan, the men are ready. Abdul Rahman has drawn maps from memory of Yodos's weak points. The rear walls near the forest are vulnerable if we strike under cover of darkness." Abdul Rahman approached, his body weary yet his spirit unbroken. "The Princess Elena, she risked much for me. Her heart does not belong to her father's cruelty. If we can reach her, she may become a bridge to those inside who long for justice." Arhan Sahib placed a hand on his shoulder. "Allah places such souls in our path for a reason. But remember, brother, mercy must never cloud strategy. Barhan Faladios, take your elite company and scout the approaches to Yodos. Yakid will be desperate to redeem himself. Watch for his treachery." In the Byzantine camp, desperation thickened the air like smoke from dying fires. Shahanshah slammed his fist upon the war table, scattering golden goblets. "Kaisal Tapa lost, supplies burned. How many more failures must I endure?" His eyes turned venomous toward Yakid, who knelt before him. "You arrived too late. Explain yourself, traitor who claims loyalty." Yakid's voice was smooth yet edged with resentment. "The Ottomans struck like devils, my lord. Barhan Faladios led them with unholy fury. Give me another chance. I will personally lead the defense of Yodos and crush Arhan's ambitions." Shahanshah laughed without joy. "Very well. You will command the southern gates. Fail me again, and your head will adorn the highest tower as a warning." As Yakid rose, his face hid dark calculations. His rivalry with Barhan Faladios had now become a personal vendetta, one that could fracture the Byzantine lines from within. Princess Elena remained confined to her chambers, yet her thoughts wandered far beyond the stone walls. She turned the small token Abdul Rahman had given her over and over in her hands, a simple yet beautifully carved wooden medallion bearing the mark of Ottoman craftsmanship. Despina entered quietly, her expression troubled. "You endanger us all with your softness, my lady. Your father grows suspicious." "I saved a man of honor," Elena replied, her voice steady. "In these dark times, such men are rare. Tell me, Despina, when did we become the monsters we once feared?" Despina sighed, torn between duty and old friendship. "War changes everything. Andreas himself worries the walls may not hold if Arhan brings his full might." Days passed in tense preparation. Ottoman forces moved like shadows through the forests, closing the noose around Yodos. In Bursa, the palace buzzed with new energy as Fatima Khatun prepared for her journey toward Rumelia. Evernos stood with her by the fountain, their hands joined in quiet promise. "The road ahead is long, my beloved," he said. "But with your strength beside me, I will build a fortress worthy of our name." Fatima smiled softly. "My brother Arhan has given us more than permission. He has given us purpose. We will carry the Ottoman banner where it has never flown and plant justice in new lands." Alauddin Sahib approached, his presence commanding. "Remember my warning, Evernos. My sister is not a prize to be won and forgotten. Protect her with your life, or answer to these hands that once carried steel across battlefields." Evernos bowed respectfully. "I swear it before Allah, she will want for nothing." Zarkin and Nasa Jalabi finalized the last of the dowry, herds of goats being driven toward Bursa, bolts of fine silk arriving by caravan. Qasim teased his friend mercilessly, yet offered sincere counsel. "Marriage is harder than any charge into enemy lines, brother. Keep her laughing and never forget to pray together." Malhun Khatun watched over all with a mother's watchful eye, offering quiet blessings and practical wisdom. Build your home on faith and patience. The rest will follow. Orhan Sahib, having returned briefly to bless the Union, now rode back toward the front lines with fresh reinforcements. The time has come, he declared to his captains under the open sky. Iodos will feel the weight of our resolve, not for glory alone, but for the oppressed who cry out under Shahanshah's tyranny. Let every man fight as if the prophet himself watches. The night of the great assault arrived. Clouds veiled the moon, granting cover to the Ottoman host. Tarhan led the first wave, moving silently through the forest toward the rear battlements. Abdul Rahman was at his side, heart pounding with both duty and unspoken hope of seeing Elena once more. "The hidden postern gate," he whispered. "It is lightly guarded." Barhan Faladios commanded the main assault, his voice a low thunder. "For Orhan Sahib, for faith and honor, charge." The battle erupted like a sudden storm. Arrows flew in deadly arcs. Ladders slammed against ancient walls. Steel clashed against steel as Ottoman warriors scaled the defenses. From within, Yakid shouted frantic orders. "Hold them! Push them back into the abyss!" His men fought desperately, yet cracks appeared in their lines as Barhan's forces broke through the outer perimeter. Inside the castle, chaos reigned. Princess Elena rushed to a high window, her heart racing as she heard the familiar battle cries. "They have come," she murmured. Despina pulled her back. "Stay away from the windows, my lady. This is no place for dreams." Yet Elena slipped away in the confusion, making her way toward the lower halls where wounded were being carried. There, in the flickering torchlight, she saw him, Abdul Rahman, fighting his way through a side gate, his axe clearing a path. Their eyes met across the carnage for one electric moment. "Abdul Rahman," she called softly. He turned, shock and relief flashing across his face. For a brief instant, amid the screams and clashing steel, he fought toward her. "You must leave this place, princess. Orhan Sahib offers mercy to those who lay down arms. Your father's rule brings only suffering." Before she could answer, Byzantine soldiers surged forward. Yakid himself appeared, sword raised. "Traitorous dog, I will end your interference." Their blades met in a furious duel. Sparks flew as honor and betrayal clashed once more. Abdul Rahman parried with skill born of faith and experience. "Your loyalty is hollow, Yakid. It serves only your ambition." Tarhan joined the fray, intercepting arrows meant for his comrade and driving back the enemy with ferocious charges. "Fall back to the inner keep," Barhan Faladios roared, his voice carrying over the din as Ottoman forces gained ground. Shahanshah, watching from the highest tower, felt his grip on power slipping. "Send every reserve. Do not let them take the gates." His desperation had turned to fear, and fear made him cruel. He ordered archers to fire upon their own wavering men to force them forward. In the midst of battle, Abdul Rahman found himself cornered with a small group. Elena appeared again, unlocking a side passage. "This way quickly. It leads behind their lines." Her act of mercy saved many lives that night, though it cost her father's trust forever. The fighting raged until the first streaks of dawn painted the sky crimson. Ottoman forces had seized the outer walls and several key towers, yet Yodos's inner citadel still held. Orhan Sahib arrived with the main host, surveying the scene with solemn eyes. "We have struck a mighty blow, but the heart remains. We will starve them out if we must. Offer terms to those who wish to surrender. Justice, not slaughter, is our way." Barhan Faladios approached, breathing heavily, blood on his armor. "Yakid escaped into the inner keep, my sultan. His rivalry with me fuels his madness. He will betray even his own to survive." Orhan nodded gravely. "Then his fate will be his own doing. Abdul Rahman, you have served with unmatched courage. Rest now, but stay ready. Your knowledge of the castle may yet open the final gates." Far back in Bursa, word of the assault reached the palace by swift rider. Fatima clutched Evernose's hand tightly. "My brother advances. May Allah protect him and all our warriors." Evernose kissed her forehead. And soon we ride to Rumelia to expand what they win here. Our children will inherit a greater empire. As the sun climbed higher over Yodos, the castle stood scarred but defiant. Shahanshah brooded in his chambers, plotting desperate alliances and harsher punishments. Princess Elena sat alone, the wooden medallion pressed to her heart, wondering if love and honor could survive the storm of war. Abdul Rahman cleaned his weapons by the Ottoman campfires, his gaze fixed on the distant walls. She walks between two worlds, he told Tarhan quietly. May Allah guide her steps. Orhan Sahib gathered his commanders beneath the banners. This victory is but a chapter. The siege tightens. Prayers will sustain us. Honor will guide us. And fate, written by the Almighty, will decide the hour of Yodos' fall. We fight not for land alone, but for a legacy that will echo until the end of time. The winds carried the sounds of preparation. Hammers on wood, horses being readied, invocations rising to the heavens. Smoke still curled from the battlefield. Wounded men groaned in tents. And across the lines, eyes watched and hearts yearned, knowing the great confrontation was only beginning. Shahanshah's desperation grew, Yakid's betrayal festered, Barhan's rivalry sharpened, and the quiet bond between Abdul Rahman and Elena remained a fragile light in the gathering darkness. The war for Yodos, for Rumelia, and for the soul of empires continued, its outcome resting in the hands of the merciful, whose wisdom alone could untangle the threads of loyalty, love, sacrifice, and destiny. As the sun climbed higher over the scarred walls of Yodos, casting long shadows across the blood-stained earth, Orhan Sahib rode slowly along the captured outer battlements, his horse stepping carefully over broken stone and fallen banners. The air was thick with the scent of smoke, iron, and sweat. Tarhan walked beside him, ever watchful, his hand never far from his sword. The outer ring is ours, my sultan, but the inner citadel remains a thorn deep in our side. Yakid has barricaded himself well, with the most loyal remnants of the Shahanshah's guard. Orhan Sahib gazed toward the towering inner keep, where Byzantine flags still fluttered defiantly. Patience, Tarhan, we have broken their pride. Now we break their spirit. Send word under a flag of truce. Offer safe passage to any who lay down their arms. Allah does not delight in needless slaughter. His voice carried across the wind, reaching the ears of Captains Damir Khan and Mahmud, who immediately moved to carry out the command. Abdul Rahman stood nearby, cleaning the edge of his axe with deliberate strokes, his eyes fixed on the high windows of the keep where he knew Princess Elena might be watching. Inside the besieged citadel, tension coiled like a serpent ready to strike. Shahanshah paced the dimly lit hall, his once regal robes now stained with the dust of fear. They dare offer terms, to my men, his voice cracked with rising hysteria. Yakid, you will hold this keep until reinforcements arrive from the east. If you fail me again, I will have your skin peeled before the walls as an example. Yakid bowed low, but his eyes burned with barely contained rage. As you command, my Shahanshah, but Barhan Faladios waits out there like a wolf. His personal hatred for me clouds his judgment. I will use that against him. As he left the chamber, Yakid's mind turned darker paths. Loyalty to a failing ruler tasted like ash. Perhaps survival demanded new masters. Princess Elena stood upon a narrow balcony overlooking the Ottoman positions, the wooden medallion hidden beneath her gown, pressed against her heart. Despina joined her, voice low with warning. You must not show yourself so openly. Your father suspects your heart has turned. He speaks of confinement. I cannot hide while men die for pride and power, Elena replied softly. Abdul Rahman fights with honor. His sultan offers mercy where my father offers only chains. Is justice so foreign to us now? Despina sighed, her own loyalties fracturing. Andreas himself grows weary. The men whisper that the stars no longer favor us. That night, as darkness wrapped the castle like a shroud, the Ottomans pressed their advantage. Torches flickered along their lines while Barhan Faladios led a daring raid on the southern supply gate. For Orhan Sahib, for the oppressed, he roared, his sword cutting through the night as his men surged forward. Arrows rained down from the walls, but Tarhan moved like lightning, intercepting deadly shafts with his shield and blade, clearing the path for the charge. Abdul Rahman fought at the forefront, his axe rising and falling with rhythmic fury. "Open the way," he shouted, smashing through a barricade. In the chaos, he glimpsed a side postern gate cracking open. There in the shadows stood Elena, her face pale but determined. She had risked everything once more. "This passage leads to the lower stores," she whispered urgently as he reached her. "Take what you need, but spare the wounded. They are not your enemies." Their hands brushed for a fleeting moment. "You walk a blade's edge, princess," Abdul Rahman said, his voice heavy with emotion. "Why help us?" "Because I have seen the difference between tyranny and justice," she answered, eyes meeting his with quiet fire. "Tell your sultan that not all within these walls wish to die for a desperate man." Before more could be spoken, Byzantine soldiers appeared. Yakid led them, his face twisted in fury at the sight of the princess aiding the enemy. "Traitor!" he bellowed, charging directly at Abdul Rahman. Their blades clashed in a storm of steel. "You poison everything you touch, Faladios's dog." Burhan Faladios himself joined the fray, leaping over debris to face his rival. "Your betrayal reeks to the heavens, Yakid. Fight me like a man instead of hiding behind failing walls." The two commanders dueled fiercely amid the battle, sparks flying as personal hatred merged with the larger war. Yakid fought with cunning desperation, while Burhan's strikes carried the weight of true conviction. Tarhan shouted orders, leading fresh waves over the walls. "Push them back. The inner keep trembles." Fires erupted in the lower courtyards as Ottoman torches found dry stores. The night filled with the screams of battle, the clash of steel, and the distant calls to prayer rising from the Ottoman camp. Orhan Sahib watched from his command position, hands clasped in supplication. "O Allah, the merciful, the just, grant us victory not through cruelty but through truth. Guide the hearts that seek honor." His words inspired the captains, Altadin Sahib, Tamir Boga, and Mustafa, who led disciplined assaults on multiple fronts, slowly tightening the noose. By the gray light of dawn, the Ottomans had seized more ground. The lower levels of the citadel were now contested, with Yakid forced to retreat deeper. Wounded Byzantine soldiers were treated by Ottoman healers under Orhan's strict command, a sight that sowed seeds of doubt among the defenders. Shahanshah, witnessing this from above, grew more unhinged. "They mock us with mercy. Fight to the last man." In a hidden corner during a lull, Abdul Rahman found Elena again, tending to an injured child. "This war devours the innocent," she said, looking up at him. "Your sultan, does he truly offer a better path?" "He seeks justice for all under his protection," Abdul Rahman replied, his voice low and sincere. "I have seen his mercy in Bursa and on the field. You could find safety with us, princess." Her eyes softened, yet sorrow lingered. "My father is still my father, but my conscience, it pulls me toward light." Their moment was shattered as Despina appeared, pulling Elena away. "You will be discovered. Go, warrior, and may whatever god you serve protect you." Meanwhile, swift riders brought news from Bursa. Fatima Khatun and Evernose had begun their journey toward Rumelia with a strong escort, carrying the blessings of the palace. In their camp that night, Fatima spoke softly by the fire. "My brother fights for Iodos while we ride to open new frontiers. We must prove worthy of this trust." Evernose held her close. "We will build strongholds that stand for generations. Our union will bind blood and land. With Allah's help, the Ottoman light will spread." Alauddin Sahib had sent word through the riders. "Protect her as the crown jewel she is. Expand with wisdom, not mere conquest." Zarkin and Nasa Jalabi remained in Bursa, managing supply lines and ensuring the promised dowry flowed steadily to strengthen alliances. Back at Iodos, the siege entered a new, grueling phase. Orhan Sahib called his commanders to council beneath a sprawling tent. "We control the outer defenses. Now we starve the inner keep. Cut their water. Watch every gate. Barhan, press Yakid's position. Abdul Rahman, use your knowledge of the inner passages, but remember honor above all. Abdul Rahman nodded. The Princess Elena, she has helped us twice now. Her soul rebels against her father's path. Orhan's gaze was thoughtful. Then fate may yet bring her to safety, but we do not gamble victory on one heart. Strengthen the lines. Prepare for the final push when their strength fails. As another night fell, the fighting flared again in sporadic bursts. Yakid attempted a desperate counterattack, leading his remaining forces out in a night raid, only to be driven back by Tarhan's swift response and Barhan's unrelenting pressure. In the clash, Yakid and Barhan met blade to blade once more. "You fight for a dying empire," Barhan shouted. "Join the just side before it is too late." "Never," Yakid spat, retreating wounded but alive, his hatred deepening into open thoughts of betrayal. Shahanshah, isolated in his tower, began sending desperate messages for aid, promising gold and titles to any who would relieve the siege. His manipulation grew frantic, alienating even his closest advisors. Princess Elena, now under closer watch, clutched the medallion and whispered prayers of her own. "Guide me, O Lord of the worlds. Show me the path of true honor." Abdul Rahman, resting briefly by a watchfire, confided in Tarhan. "She is caught between two fires. I pray Allah softens the walls around her heart as he softens this fortress." Orhan Sahib walked among the wounded, offering words of comfort and promises of paradise to the martyrs. "This struggle is greater than one castle. It is the unfolding of destiny. We fight for faith, for justice, for the future of our people. Hold fast, my brothers. The dawn of victory approaches." Yet Yodo still stood, scarred and bleeding but unbroken at its core. The Shahanshah's desperation fueled cruel orders. Yakid plotted in shadows. Barhan's rivalry burned hotter. And across the lines, the quiet, dangerous connection between Abdul Rahman and Elena grew like a fragile flame in the storm. The war continued without mercy. Supplies dwindled inside the keep. Ottoman banners multiplied on captured towers. Prayers rose with every new day. And the great wheel of fate turned ever onward, grinding empires, testing souls, and weaving the threads of love, betrayal, honor, and divine will into a tapestry yet unfinished. The fall of Yodos drew nearer, but the price remained high, and the final chapter still waited in the hands of the Almighty. As the siege of Yodos tightened its iron grip like the hand of destiny itself, the days blurred into nights of fire and shadow. Orhan Sahib stood upon the newly captured western tower, his silhouette framed against the blood-red sunset, eyes fixed upon the inner citadel that still resisted with stubborn defiance. The wind carried the distant cries of the wounded and the low chants of his warriors performing the Maghrib prayer. Tarhan stood at his right hand, ever the loyal blade, while Barhan Faladios paced nearby, his armor dented from countless clashes, his face marked by fresh scars. "My Sultan," Barhan spoke, voice rough with battle weariness, "the walls weaken. Their water supplies run low. One more push through the eastern breach and we can split their defenses forever." Orhan raised his hand slowly. "Not yet. We wait for their spirit to crack. Mercy offered is a weapon sharper than any sword. Send another messenger under white cloth. Tell them Orhan Sahib grants safe conduct to all who lay down arms, even to the Shahanshah if he surrenders with honor." Inside the besieged keep, Shahanshah's chambers echoed with rage. He hurled a golden chalice against the wall, shattering it into fragments. "Safe conduct. That dog Orhan dares offer me terms in my own fortress." His eyes, wild with desperation, turned upon Yakid, who stood bloodied and bandaged from the previous night's duel. "You have failed me at every turn. Take 200 of the remaining guards and drive them back from the eastern gate. If you return without victory, do not return at all." Yakid bowed, but the shadow in his eyes deepened. "As you command, my lord, but know this, Barhan Faladios hunts me like a personal vendetta. His hatred blinds him. I will use it." As he departed the chamber, his steps were heavy with calculation. Loyalty to a sinking ship no longer served his survival. Princess Elena moved like a ghost through the lower halls, her face veiled, carrying water to the suffering wounded. Despina followed close behind, her loyalty now torn between old duty and growing doubt. "You risk your life every time you slip away," Despina whispered. "Your father has ordered guards to watch you night and day." Elena paused near a narrow arrow slit, gazing out toward the Ottoman fires burning brightly in the distance. "I saw him again last night, Despina. Abdul Rahman. He fights not for conquest alone, but with a light in his eyes. How long must we cling to a dying throne?" In the Ottoman camp, Abdul Rahman sat sharpening his axe by the fire, the flames dancing across his determined face. Tarhan approached, offering a skin of water. "You think of her, don't you? The Byzantine princess. Her help has already saved many of our brothers." Abdul Rahman nodded slowly. "She walks between two fires, Tarhan. Her soul seeks truth. If Allah wills, she may yet find safety among us, but I will not let emotion cloud my blade. The Sultan's justice comes first." Orhan Sahib joined them, his presence bringing instant calm to the warriors. "Abdul Rahman, your knowledge of the inner passages remains our greatest gift. Tonight we strike the granaries. Barhan will lead the assault. You will guide him through the hidden route Elena showed you. Tarhan, guard the flanks. Let no arrow reach our brothers." The night deepened, heavy with tension. Clouds veiled the moon as Barhan Faladios led a silent column through the forest edge. Abdul Rahman moved ahead, every step measured, recalling the exact turns Elena had revealed in their stolen moments. They reached the concealed postern gate. With careful hands, Abdul Rahman pried it open. The warriors slipped inside like wolves into the fold. Chaos erupted moments later. Barhan's sword flashed first, cutting down the surprised guards. "For Orhan Sahib, for honor and faith," he roared. Flames soon licked at the wooden granaries as Ottoman torches did their work. Smoke rose thick and black, choking the defenders. Yakid, leading a desperate countercharge, met Barhan head-on in the flickering inferno. "You again," Yakid snarled, their blades crashing together. "Always in my path, Faladios." "And you always in the service of tyrants," Barhan answered, driving him back with powerful strokes. "Your betrayal will be your end." The duel raged amid falling debris and shouting men. Tarhan charged in from the side, intercepting arrows meant for Barhan and cutting through Yakid's guards with lethal precision. Abdul Rahman fought like a man possessed, his axe clearing a path deeper into the keep, always searching for any sign of Elena. High above, Princess Elena heard the clash and rushed to the balcony despite the danger. She saw the fires consuming the stores and whispered a prayer. "Protect him, O Lord, protect the light in this darkness." Moments later, Abdul Rahman broke through into a side courtyard. Their eyes met across the smoke-filled space. "Princess," he called urgently, "come with us. Orhan offers you protection. This fortress will fall." Elena hesitated, tears glistening in her eyes. "My father, I cannot abandon him completely. But tell your sultan many within these walls are ready to lay down arms if mercy is true." Before Abdul Rahman could respond, Byzantine soldiers poured in. Yakid, wounded but furious, pointed directly at her. "Seize the traitorous princess. She conspires with the enemy." Despina stepped forward bravely, trying to shield Elena, but was struck down by a blow meant for her charge. Abdul Rahman leaped forward, his axe deflecting the next strike. "She is under my protection," he shouted, fighting fiercely to reach her. Tarhan joined him, creating a wall of steel. In the fierce melee, Barhan Faladios broke free from Yakid and pushed deeper, forcing the traitor to retreat once more into the inner tunnels, cursing with every step. The night's raid ended with heavy losses on both sides, but the granaries were destroyed. As dawn broke, the defenders faced hunger as well as fear. Shahanshah, watching from his tower, slammed his fist against the stone. "They burn our food while offering mercy. Double the guards on Elena. She will not leave her chambers again." Orhan Sahib walked among his men at first light, offering comfort to the injured and praise to the brave. You have struck another blow for justice. The oppressed inside those walls now see our truth. Hold the line with patience. Allah rewards the steadfast. In a rare quiet moment behind Ottoman lines, Abdul Rahman found a way to send a small message through a trusted scout who had once served in the castle. The message reached Elena in secret. Your courage is remembered. Safety awaits if you choose it. A.R. Elena clutched the note to her heart, the wooden medallion warm against her skin. He fights with honor, she told Despina, who now lay recovering from her wound. Perhaps there is still hope for all of us. Far to the west, in the rolling hills of Rumelia, Fatima Khatun and Evernose had established their first forward camp. The land stretched vast and promising before them. Evernose stood with her upon a ridge, surveying the territory. Here we will build, my wife, a stronghold that honors your brother's vision and protects our people. Fatima placed her hand over his. With Allah's blessing, my brother Orhan bleeds at Yodos so we may plant seeds of empire here. We must not fail him. Their escort, led by loyal captains sent from Bursa, worked tirelessly. Word arrived by rider of the successes at Yodos, the outer walls taken, the granaries burned. Fatima whispered grateful prayers while Evernose sharpened his resolve. We will expand these frontiers. Our children will inherit a realm stretching from Bursa to these distant shores. Back at Yodos, the siege ground on with relentless pressure. Orhan called his commanders together once more beneath the campaign tent. Burhan, continue pressing Yakid's sector. His rivalry with you weakens their coordination. Abdul Rahman, prepare for infiltration of the inner keep. Tarhan, ready the catapults. We will batter their walls by day and strike by night. Abdul Rahman spoke quietly. The Princess Elena she saved lives again. Her heart turns toward justice. If we can reach her, she may open the final gates from within. Orhan nodded thoughtfully. Then pray for her guidance. But remember, brother, fate writes with many hands. We rely first on Allah and our swords. That very night, another assault shook the citadel. Steel rang endlessly. Arrows filled the sky like dark rain. Burhan Faladios led a ferocious charge, clashing once more with Yakid in a brutal confrontation that left both men bleeding. Submit, Burhan demanded. End this madness. Never while I breathe, Yakid replied, retreating deeper into the shadows, his mind now fully turning toward betrayal of his own master. In the chaos, Abdul Rahman reached a hidden balcony where Elena waited, risking everything. Come, he urged, extending his hand. The Sultan's mercy is real. Your father's rule ends in fire and despair. Elena's hand trembled as she touched his. I want to believe, but blood ties bind me still. Give me time. I will do what I can from inside. Their moment was cut short by approaching footsteps. Abdul Rahman slipped away into the night, carrying her words like a precious secret. Tarhan covered his retreat, intercepting yet another wave of arrows with masterful skill. As another dawn rose over the weary battlefield, smoke curled from the damaged keep. Shahanshah's desperation had turned to paranoia. He ordered executions of suspected disloyal soldiers, further fracturing his own ranks. Yakid, nursing his wounds, began secret communications with Ottoman scouts, testing the waters of defection. Orhan Sahib, sensing the turning tide, offered fresh prayers under the open sky. O Allah, the compassionate, open the hearts that seek truth. Grant us Yodos not through cruelty but through your divine will. Let justice prevail. The war for the fortress continued, its fires burning hotter with every passing hour. Love and loyalty tested across enemy lines. Rivalries sharpened like blades. Desperation bred betrayal. And the great epic of Orhan Sahib's campaign marched onward, its final verses still hidden in the folds of fate, where honor, sacrifice, and the mercy of the Almighty would decide the destiny of empires and the souls caught within them. The walls of Yodos trembled but had not yet fallen. The struggle endured. As the siege of Yodos entered its most grueling phase, The fortress stood like a wounded giant, its once-proud walls blackened by fire and scarred by relentless assault. Orhan Sahib walked the captured outer ramparts at twilight, his cloak heavy with the dust of many days, eyes reflecting both the fire of determination and the sorrow of necessary bloodshed. The evening call to prayer rose from the Ottoman lines, a solemn melody carried on the wind that seemed to challenge the very stones of the citadel. Tarhan remained at his side, silent and vigilant, his sword hand never resting. "Patience is our sharpest weapon now," Orhan said quietly. "Their bellies are empty, their water foul, yet pride still holds them. Barhan Faladios press the eastern tunnels without mercy. Abdul Rahman, you will slip inside once more, find the princess. Her heart may yet open the final gate." Barhan Faladios, his armor dented and his eyes burning with unquenched fire, bowed deeply. "My sultan, I will drive Yakid into the deepest pit. His rivalry has become his poison. He fights for nothing but his own skin now." Abdul Rahman gripped his axe tighter, the memory of Alina's trembling hand still fresh. "She wavers between blood and conscience. I will reach her, my sultan. May Allah guide my steps through the shadows." That very night, under a sky devoid of stars, the assault renewed with fresh fury. Ottoman catapults hurled stones that crashed against the inner walls like thunder from the heavens. Tarhan led the diversionary attack on the southern gate, his blade intercepting arrows mid-flight, carving a path for his men with unmatched skill. "Hold nothing back," he roared. "For Orhan Sahib, for justice and faith." Meanwhile, Abdul Rahman moved like a shadow through the hidden passage Alina had once revealed. The air inside was thick with smoke and despair. He emerged into a dimly lit corridor where wounded Byzantine soldiers lay groaning. There, tending to them in secret, was Princess Alina, her fine robe stained with dirt and blood, her face pale yet resolute. Despina stood guard nearby, now openly aiding her mistress in defiance of the Shahanshah. "Abdul Rahman," Alina whispered urgently as their eyes met, "you should not have come. My father has doubled the guards. He suspects everything." "I had to see you," he replied, voice low and intense. "Orhan Sahib offers you and all who follow you safe passage. Lay down your arms. End this suffering. Your father's rule brings only ruin." Alina's hand brushed his arm for a fleeting second. "I have seen the mercy your sultan shows the wounded. It is not the way of my father, but my blood it binds me still. Give me one more night. I will speak to those inside who are ready to surrender. Many have lost faith in this hopeless defense." Before they could speak further, footsteps thundered down the hall. Yakid appeared at the head of a group of loyalists, his face twisted with hatred and fresh wounds from earlier clashes. "There you are, Ottoman dog, and the traitorous princess with you," he charged, sword raised high. "I will end both your betrayals tonight." Abdul Rahman met him with ferocious strength, their blades clashing in a deadly dance. "Your loyalty is false, Yakid. You serve only yourself." Sparks flew as steel met steel. Barhan Faladios, having broken through from another direction, joined the fray with a thunderous battle cry. "At last we finish this, traitor." The two fierce commanders collided in a personal storm of hatred and honor. Barhan's strikes were powerful and righteous, while Yakid fought with cunning desperation, using every dirty trick he knew. "You think Orhan will reward you?" Yakid spat. "He will discard you like the rest. Better to die with honor than live as your kind does," Barhan answered, driving him back step by step. Tarhan burst into the corridor moments later, his arrival turning the tide. He intercepted multiple guards, his sword a blur of precision, protecting Abdul Rahman's flank as he fought to reach Alina. In the chaos, Despina pulled the princess into a side chamber, but not before Alina cried out, "Tell your sultan many are ready. The walls will open from within." The fighting spilled into the lower halls, flames spreading as torches fell. Yakid, heavily wounded, retreated deeper into the keep, cursing Barhan's name and vowing darker revenge. "This is not over, Faladios. I will burn everything before I fall." Outside, Orhan Sahib watched the fires rage from his command position, hands raised in prayer. O Allah, the just, the merciful, let truth prevail this night. Grant strength to our brothers and open the hearts of those trapped inside tyranny. Captains Damir Khan, Mahmud, Altadin Sahib, Tamir Boga, Mustafa, and Zarkin fought with unyielding courage, pushing the defenders further back with every passing hour. By the cold light of dawn, the Ottomans had seized yet another section of the inner citadel. The granaries were long gone, and thirst now gnawed at the Byzantine ranks. Shahanshah, isolated in his highest tower, had descended into near madness. They dare infiltrate my own keep, execute any who speak of surrender. Elena is to be locked in the eastern tower under heavy guard. She will not betray me. Despina, now fully committed to the princess's safety, helped conceal Elena as guards searched the halls. Your father has lost his mind, she whispered. The men are ready to turn. We must act soon. Far from the bloodshed in the green hills of Rumelia, Fatima Khatun and Evernose had begun laying the foundations of their new stronghold. Under the open sky, Evernose drove stakes into the earth with his own hands while Fatima watched with pride. This land will be our legacy, he said, wiping sweat from his brow. A fortress that honors your brother's victories at Yodos. Fatima placed her hand upon her growing belly, a secret joy she had not yet fully shared. We build not just with stone, but with faith. My brother Orhan fights for the heart of the empire while we expand its reach. May Allah protect him and bring him victory soon. Their loyal captains, including Kilal and Al-Aliuddin Sahib, worked tirelessly alongside them. Riders brought fresh news of the siege, the inner walls breached, Yakid on the run, hope rising among the Ottoman ranks. Evernose raised his sword toward the horizon. We will make these lands Ottoman in blood and spirit, for Orhan Sahib, for our future. Back at Yodos, as another tense day passed, Abdul Rahman returned to Orhan's tent, breathing heavily. She is willing, my sultan. Many inside are ready to open the gates, but the Shahanshah grows more desperate. He may slaughter his own before he falls. Orhan Sahib placed a fatherly hand on his shoulder. You have done well, Abdul Rahman. Your courage and her mercy may yet save many souls. Prepare the final assault for tomorrow night. We will offer one last chance for honorable surrender. Tarhan, ready every man. Barhan, keep Yakid occupied. Let his rivalry blind him to our true plan. That evening, as shadows lengthened once more, the Ottoman forces gathered in solemn prayer. Invocations to the Almighty rose like smoke, oaths of honor sworn upon swords, promises of justice renewed. Orhan walked among them, his presence a beacon of strength. This is not mere conquest, my brothers. We fight to lift the yoke of oppression. Allah sees every drop of blood, every act of mercy. Stand firm. Victory draws near. Inside the keep, Princess Elena sat in her guarded chamber, the wooden medallion clutched tightly, whispering prayers of her own. Guide me, O Lord. Show me the path where honor survives this darkness. Her heart torn between loyalty to blood and the call of justice. Yakid, hiding in the lower levels, began secret talks with Ottoman scouts, his betrayal now nearly complete, driven by hatred for Barhan and fear of the Shahanshah's failing rule. The great siege stood on the edge of its climax. Fires burned low on the battlefield. Wounded men prayed in both camps. Banners fluttered in the night wind. And the fates of Orhan Sahib, the desperate Shahanshah, the rival commanders, the brave Abdul Rahman, and the conflicted Princess Elena remained intertwined in a tapestry woven by divine will. The walls of Yodos trembled under the weight of destiny, yet the final fall had not yet come. Honor, betrayal, love, and faith would decide the outcome in the nights yet to unfold, as the eternal struggle between justice and tyranny marched onward beneath the watchful eyes of the heavens. As the final veil of night lifted over the blood-soaked stones of Yodos, the fortress groaned under the unyielding pressure of Orhan Sahib's host, its once mighty walls now fractured like the failing spirit of its defenders. Orhan Sahib stood upon the highest captured tower, the morning wind tugging at his cloak, his face etched with the solemn weight of command. Below him, Ottoman banners fluttered triumphantly over sections of the outer and middle defenses, while the inner citadel still resisted with the stubbornness of a cornered beast. Tarhan stood at his right, ever watchful, his armor bearing fresh marks of the previous night's fury. Barhan Faladios paced restlessly nearby, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword as if eager to finish what hatred had begun. "My Sultan," Barhan spoke, voice low and fierce, "the enemy weakens with every passing hour. Their water is nearly gone. Yakid hides like a rat in the lower tunnels, plotting only his own survival. One decisive strike tonight and the heart of Yodos will be ours." Orhan Sahib nodded slowly, his gaze steady upon the towering keep. "We offer them one final chance before the storm breaks. Send the messenger once more. Tell the Shahanshah that Orhan Sahib grants honorable surrender to all, even to him, if he lays down his arms and ends this needless suffering. Justice, not vengeance, guides our blades." Abdul Rahman approached from the lower ramparts, his axe clean but his eyes heavy with unspoken thoughts. "She is ready, my Sultan. Princess Elena has spoken to many inside. The captains grow weary of their ruler's madness. If we strike the eastern gate at midnight, they will open it from within." Orhan placed a firm hand upon his shoulder. "You carry a heavy burden, brother. Your courage in the shadows may save more lives than any charge across open ground. Go with Allah's protection. Tarhan, guard his path. Barhan, keep Yakid occupied. Let his personal hatred blind him to our true movement." Inside the besieged citadel, the air hung thick with despair and the stench of unwashed bodies and fear. Shahanshah sat upon his diminishing throne in the grand hall, his once regal face now gaunt and twisted with paranoia. "They dare offer me surrender in my own fortress," he snarled, slamming his fist upon the armrest. "Yakid, gather every remaining man. We will launch a counterattack at dusk and break their lines. Failure is no longer an option." Yakid stepped forward, his wounds bandaged crudely, his eyes burning with barely concealed contempt. "As you command, my Shahanshah, but Barhan Faladios hunts me relentlessly. His obsession will be his undoing. I will draw him out and end him." Yet as he left the chamber, Yakid's steps carried the weight of final calculation. His mind had already turned fully toward betrayal. Survival demanded new allegiance. Princess Elena remained locked in the eastern tower under heavy guard, yet Despina had managed to create a narrow window of freedom. In the dim light of a single torch, Elena clutched the wooden medallion, her fingers tracing its carved edges. When Abdul Rahman slipped through the hidden passage once more, emerging like a guardian from the shadows, her breath caught. "You came," she whispered, stepping close despite the danger. "My father tightens his grip, but many are ready to lay down their swords. The captains speak openly now of Orhan's mercy. I have convinced them." Abdul Rahman looked upon her with deep respect and quiet emotion. "Your courage outshines the bravest warriors, Princess. Orhan Sahib honors such hearts. Come with us when the gates open. There is a place for you beyond these crumbling walls." Elena's eyes glistened. "My blood ties me here, yet my soul cries out for justice. If the gate opens tonight, I will ensure it stays open. But promise me, no harm to the innocent. They are caught in my father's folly." "I swear it before Allah," Abdul Rahman replied, his voice steady and sincere. Their hands met briefly in the flickering light, a fragile bridge across enemy lines, before the sound of approaching footsteps forced him to vanish once more into the darkness. As dusk fell like a heavy curtain, the Ottoman forces prepared for the decisive blow. Prayers rose in unified voices across the camp. Orhan Sahib walked among his men, offering words that stirred the soul. "Tonight we do not fight for conquest alone, but for the light of justice that will pierce this darkness. Stand firm, my brothers. Allah is with the patient and the righteous." The midnight hour arrived shrouded in clouds. Tarhan led the diversion at the southern walls, his sword flashing as he intercepted wave after wave of arrows, leading charges that drew the defenders' attention. Barhan Faladios launched a ferocious assault on the western tunnels, roaring his challenge. "Come out, Yakid. Face me like a man instead of a coward." Their blades met once again in savage combat, steel ringing against steel amid the narrow confines. "Your end is near, traitor," Barhan shouted, driving Yakid back with powerful strokes. Yet Yakid fought with the desperation of a man who had already chosen his path. "You fight for illusions, Faladios. Orhan will reward you with nothing but graves." He retreated deeper, deliberately drawing Barhan away from the true point of attack. At the eastern gate, Abdul Rahman waited in the shadows with a small elite group. The heavy doors creaked open from within. Princess Elena stood there with several Byzantine captains who had chosen honor over loyalty to a failing tyrant. "Quickly," she urged. "The way is clear for now." Ottoman warriors poured through like a silent tide. The inner citadel erupted into chaos as fighting spilled into the grand halls and courtyards. Shahanshah, alerted by the sudden uproar, descended in fury. "Treason! Kill them all! Burn the towers if you must!" His orders grew increasingly unhinged, alienating even his last loyalists. In the heart of the melee, Abdul Rahman fought his way toward Elena, protecting her as she guided surrendering soldiers to safety. "Stay close to me," he said, his axe clearing threats with measured fury. Despina fought beside them, her loyalty now fully transferred to the princess and the promise of mercy. High above, Yakid made his final move. Instead of reinforcing the defense, he slipped toward a side postern with a small group of followers, raising a white cloth toward Ottoman lines in open betrayal. Barhan Faladios, witnessing the act, roared in disgust. "Even now you sell your soul," he pursued, but the greater battle demanded his return to the main fight. Orhan Sahib entered the breached citadel at the head of his finest warriors, his presence commanding immediate respect. "Lay down your arms and live," he called out, his voice carrying across the chaos. "Those who seek justice will find it under the Ottoman banner. We fight tyranny, not men." Many defenders threw down their weapons, kneeling in surrender. Shahanshah, cornered in his final hall with a handful of die-hard guards, faced the inevitable. His face was a mask of disbelief and rage as Orhan Sahib approached. You have taken everything," the Shahanshah hissed. Orhan replied with calm authority. "You took everything from your own people first. Surrender now and your life will be spared. Continue this madness and fate will claim you." In the shadows, Yakid attempted to bargain for his defection, but Barhan Faladios confronted him one last time. Their final duel was swift and merciless. Barhan's blade found its mark. "This is the price of betrayal," he declared as Yakid fell, his ambitions ending in the dust of the conquered hall. As the first light of dawn touched the liberated fortress, the great siege of Yodos neared its end. Ottoman banners rose over the highest towers. Prayers of victory and gratitude rose to the heavens. Orhan Sahib stood in the central courtyard, offering thanks to the Almighty while ordering care for all wounded, friend and former foe alike. Princess Elena approached him slowly, Abdul Rahman at her side. "I chose justice," she said quietly. "May your mercy prove true." Orhan Sahib regarded her with respect. "It is. You will be treated with honor as all who seek peace deserve." Abdul Rahman met her eyes, a quiet understanding passing between them. The bond forged in fire and shadow had borne fruit. Yet far to the west in Rumelia, Fatima Khatun stood with Evernose upon the rising walls of their new stronghold, the morning sun painting the hills gold. "Word has come," Evernose said, reading the writer's message. "Iodos has fallen, your brother has triumphed." Fatima placed a hand over her heart, tears of joy in her eyes. "Then our work here carries even greater purpose. We will build a legacy worthy of his sacrifice." Their hands joined as they looked toward the future, new banners rising behind them. But even in victory, Orhan Sahib knew the greater war continued. Shahanshah's allies stirred in distant lands. New threats gathered on the horizon. As he surveyed the conquered fortress, he spoke softly to his commanders. "This is but one chapter. The empire expands. Justice must spread with it. Prepare the next march. Rumelia calls. The road ahead remains long." The fires of Iodos smoldered low. Wounded men received care. Prayers continued without cease. And the souls of warriors, princesses, and sultans remained bound by the threads of fate, honor, and divine decree. The war for these lands was far from over. New battles awaited. New tests of faith and courage would come. And the eternal struggle between light and shadow marched onward beneath the same watchful stars that had witnessed the beginning. As the first rays of dawn pierced the smoke that still curled lazily from the shattered towers of Iodos, the great fortress stood conquered at last, its ancient stones bearing witness to the turning of empires. Orhan Sahib walked slowly through the central courtyard, where once the Shahanshah had ruled with fear and iron, his boots crunching over broken marble and spent arrows. The air carried the heavy scent of victory mixed with the sorrow of blood and ash. Tarhan followed close behind, his sword sheathed but his eyes ever scanning for any final treachery. Barhan Faladios stood tall amid a group of surrendered captains, his chest heaving, the blood of Yakid still staining his blade. Orhan raised his hand, and a profound silence fell across the liberated halls. "In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most just, this day belongs not to us but to truth itself. Let no man raise his hand against those who have laid down their arms. Treat the wounded as you would your own brothers. This is the way of honor." Many Byzantine soldiers, exhausted and broken by months of siege, knelt in relief as Ottoman healers moved among them. Princess Elena emerged from the eastern tower with Despina at her side, her face pale yet filled with quiet resolve. Abdul Rahman stepped forward to meet her, his axe now resting at his belt, and together they approached the Sultan. Elena bowed her head with dignity. "Orhan Sahib," she said, her voice steady though soft, "I chose the path of mercy when my father chose pride. Many lives were spared because of it. I place myself in those who followed me under your justice." Orhan regarded her with deep respect, the weight of command softening for a moment. "You have shown courage greater than many warriors who carried swords this night, Princess. Your deeds will not be forgotten. You shall be treated with honor and given protection. Those who wish to remain under Ottoman rule may do so freely. Those who wish to leave will be granted safe passage." Abdul Rahman met her eyes, a silent current of understanding passing between them, forged in secret passages and desperate moments. "You walked through fire for what was right," he said quietly. "Allah guided your steps." In the highest chamber of the inner keep, the once mighty Shahanshah sat broken upon his throne, surrounded by Orhan's captains. His hands trembled as he stared at the green banners now hanging where his own had flown. "All is lost," he muttered, his voice a hollow echo of former arrogance. "You have taken everything, Orhan." Orhan Sahib stood before him, tall and unyielding. "You took everything from your own people long before we arrived. Justice has simply returned to these lands. Your life will be spared, but you will answer for your rule. No more tyranny, no more needless suffering." The fallen ruler was led away under guard, his reign ending not in glorious battle but in the quiet shame of defeat. Barhan Faladios watched him go, then turned to Orhan. "Yakid is dead by my hand, my sultan. His betrayal ended as it deserved. Yet I feel no joy in it, only the weight of what we have won." "You fought with honor, Barhan," Orhan replied. "Let his fate stand as a warning to all who place ambition above loyalty. Now we turn our eyes to healing these lands and securing what we have gained." As the sun climbed higher, prayers of gratitude rose from every corner of the fortress. Ottoman warriors and newly freed souls joined together in remembrance of the fallen. Abdul Rahman stood with Elena upon the same terrace where they had first spoken under starlight many nights ago. The wooden medallion still hung at her neck, hidden beneath her robes. "I never thought this day would come," she whispered, gazing across the hills now dotted with Ottoman tents. "You and your sultan, You brought light where there was only shadow. Abdul Rahman's voice was low and sincere. It was written, perhaps, from the moment you helped a lone spy escape these walls. Fate weaves strange patterns, princess. Now a new chapter begins for both of us. Tarhan approached, breaking the quiet moment. My sultan calls for counsel. Messengers have arrived from Bursa and from Rumelia. In the war chamber, now cleansed of the previous regime's symbols, Orhan Sahib gathered his most trusted. Damir Khan, Mahmud, Altadin Sahib, Tamir Boga, Mustafa and Zarkin listened intently as riders delivered their reports. Iodos had fallen, but greater responsibilities awaited. Supply lines needed securing. Local governors had to be appointed from those who had shown honor, and word from the west brought joy and purpose. In the green valleys of Rumelia, Fatima Khatun stood beside Evernos upon the rising walls of their new fortress, the morning light bathing the land in golden promise. Her hand rested gently upon her belly, where new life stirred, a secret she now shared with her husband under the open sky. Your brother has taken Iodos, Evernos said, reading the message with pride. The heart of the enemy's defense has fallen. Now our work here carries even greater meaning. We build not merely for ourselves, but for the empire that stretches behind us. Fatima's eyes shone with quiet strength. Then let us make this stronghold worthy of his victory. We will plant justice in these lands as he has done at Iodos. Our children will grow knowing the value of faith, honor, and sacrifice. Evernos drew her close. With Allah's blessing, we will expand these frontiers until the call to prayer echoes across every hill. Your brother's trust in us will not be in vain. Back in the newly secured Iodos, Orhan Sahib addressed his commanders with solemn gravity. This victory is sweet, yet it is only one step upon a long road. Shahanshah's allies stir in distant courts. New threats gather beyond the seas. We must strengthen these walls, appoint just governors, and prepare for the next campaign. Abdul Rahman, you have earned greater responsibility. The Princess Elena will be given a place of honor and protection. Her knowledge of these lands will help us govern wisely. Abdul Rahman bowed. I serve at your command, my sultan, and I pray that mercy continues to guide us as it has tonight. Elena, standing at the edge of the council, spoke softly. I offer whatever knowledge I possess. Let this fortress become a place of justice rather than fear. That is all I ask. Orhan nodded. So it shall be. Let the oppressed find shelter here. Let the faithful find strength. This is the legacy we build. As the day wore on, the sounds of reconstruction filled the air. Hammers striking stone, orders given with purpose, prayers continuing without pause. Wounded men from both sides received care in the same halls. Former defenders who had chosen surrender were given food and water, many whispering thanks to the God who had spared them. Yet even in triumph, Orhan Sahib remained watchful. He stood alone upon the highest battlement as evening approached, gazing toward the horizon where new challenges waited. O Allah, you have granted us Iodos. Grant us also the wisdom to hold it. Let honor never leave our hearts. Let betrayal find no home among us. Barhan Faladios joined him, his rivalry with Yaqid now buried with the traitor. The men are inspired, my sultan. They speak of marching next toward greater lands. Rumelia calls. The empire grows. Orhan smiled faintly. It does, and we will answer that call with clean hands and strong faith. Tell the captains to prepare. We rest here only long enough to secure our gains, then we move forward. Far away in Bursa, Malhan Khatun, Nilafar, and the family offered prayers of gratitude upon hearing the news. Ganya and Aladdin Sahib spoke of the strengthening of bloodlines and borders, while Qasim dreamed aloud of future battles fought in the name of justice. The stars rose once more over Iodos, the same stars that had watched a princess and a warrior meet in secret. Now they looked down upon a changed fortress, where Ottoman banners flew proudly and hope began to replace fear. Yet the war was far from finished. Distant powers plotted. Old alliances fractured. New tests of faith and courage lay ahead on the road to Rumelia and beyond. Abdul Rahman and Elena walked the repaired battlements together that night, their conversation quiet and filled with the weight of all they had endured. "Perhaps fate brought us together for this moment," he said. "Perhaps," she replied, touching the medallion, "and perhaps more chapters remain unwritten." Orhan Sahib, watching the fires of celebration and reconstruction below, felt the hand of destiny upon his shoulder. The conquest of Yodos had been achieved through courage, mercy, and unyielding faith, but the greater empire still called. The struggle for justice continued, and under the eternal sky, the story of these lands marched onward, its next verses waiting to be forged in fire, honor, and the will of the Almighty. As the sun climbed toward its zenith over the newly liberated fortress of Yodos, its ancient stones seemed to breathe again after long months of siege and suffering. Orhan Sahib stood in the central square, where once the Shahanshah had held court with fear and gold, now watching as Ottoman engineers and soldiers worked side by side with local craftsmen to repair the shattered walls. The sound of hammers striking stone mixed with the low murmur of prayers and the careful orders of captains restoring order. The air still carried the faint scent of smoke, yet beneath it bloomed the first fragile notes of hope. Tarhan moved among the men with tireless energy, directing the placement of new banners while ensuring no vengeful acts stained the victory. "Steady hands and clear minds," he called out. "This is not merely conquest, it is the beginning of justice in these lands." Barhin Faladios, his armor finally cleaned of the blood of his rival Yakid, approached the Sultan with a group of surrendered Byzantine captains who had chosen mercy over death. "My Sultan, these men have sworn allegiance. They know the ways of the local villages and the mountain passes. Their knowledge will serve us well if new threats arise from the east." Orhan Sahib regarded them with measured wisdom. "You have seen the difference between tyranny and honor. Serve faithfully, and you shall find protection and purpose under our rule. Betray that trust, and fate will be less kind than we have been." The captains bowed deeply, their eyes reflecting relief mixed with awe at the restraint shown by the conquerors. Nearby, upon the repaired eastern terrace where starlight had once witnessed their first conversation, Princess Elena stood with Abdul Rahman. The wooden medallion still rested against her heart, a silent testament to the dangerous path she had chosen. The wind tugged gently at her veil as she gazed across the hills now dotted with Ottoman tents and grazing horses. "I never imagined I would see this day," she said softly, her voice carrying both sorrow and quiet wonder. "My father's pride brought ruin upon these walls, yet your Sultan offers healing where there could have been slaughter. You fought not just with steel but with conscience." Abdul Rahman turned to her, his battle-hardened face softening in the daylight. "It was not my courage alone, Princess. Your mercy opened the gates when pride would have kept them sealed. Many lives were spared because you listened to your soul rather than fear. Whatever path you choose now, know that honor walks with you." Elena met his gaze, a fragile connection deepening between them. "I have lost a father's throne, but perhaps I have gained something greater, a chance to serve justice instead of watching it die. If Orhan Sahib will allow it, I wish to remain and help rebuild what was broken." Abdul Rahman placed a respectful hand over his heart. "Then I will speak for you. Your knowledge of these people and their customs is a gift we cannot waste. Allah has brought us together through fire and shadow. Perhaps He has more purpose for us yet." In the grand council chamber, now adorned with green Ottoman banners and fresh torches, Orhan Sahib gathered his most trusted commanders. Damir Khan, Mahmud, Altadin Sahib, Tamir Boga, Mustafa and Zarkin stood ready, their faces marked by victory yet shadowed by the awareness of greater duties ahead. "The fall of Yodos is complete," Orhan declared, his voice resonant and steady. "But victory without wisdom becomes another form of defeat. We must appoint just governors, secure the supply roads, and show the people that Ottoman rule brings peace and prosperity, not new chains. Abdul Rahman, you have earned command of the eastern defenses. Princess Elena will advise on local matters under careful watch. Barhin Faladios, you will lead patrols into the surrounding valleys. Root out any remnants of the old regime who refuse mercy. Barhin Bode, it shall be done, my sultan. The shadow of Yakid's betrayal has ended. I fight now only for the empire's honor. Tarhan spoke next. Messengers from Bursa bring good tidings. Your sister Fatima and Evernos make strong progress in Rumelia. Their first fortress rises steadily. They send their prayers and await your guidance on the next expansion. Arhan's eyes warmed at the mention of family. Then we have planted seeds in two directions. Iodos will become our strong anchor here, while Rumelia becomes the blade that stretches our reach. Prepare caravans of supplies for them, and send word that I will visit when these walls are secure. As the council dispersed, Abdul Rahman approached Arhan privately. My sultan, the princess, her heart has truly turned. She wishes to serve. I believe her sincerity is genuine. Arhan studied him for a long moment. Love and duty often walk the same path in times like these. Guard both carefully, Abdul Rahman. Protect her as you would any soul seeking refuge, but remember the empire's needs come first. We cannot afford softness where treachery might still hide. Meanwhile, far to the west in the rolling green hills of Rumelia, Fatima Khatun walked beside Evernos along the rising stone walls of their emerging stronghold. The air smelled of fresh earth and pine, and the distant call of workers echoed across the valley. Evernos's hands were calloused from labor, yet his eyes burned with vision as he surveyed the growing fortifications. Your brother's victory at Iodos strengthens our purpose here, Evernos said, taking her hand. Word has come that the fortress has fallen and mercy was shown. Now we must prove ourselves worthy of that example. This citadel will guard the new frontiers and serve as a beacon for those who seek Ottoman protection. Fatima placed her hand gently upon her belly, where their child grew, a secret joy now shared openly between them. I feel it too. A new life coming into a world we are shaping. We build not just walls of stone, my husband, but a legacy of faith and justice. My brother Arhan bleeds for the heart of the empire. We will expand its soul. Zarkin and Nasa Jalabi, who had accompanied them with supply trains, oversaw the unloading of timber and provisions. Qasim, ever the energetic youth, trained with local recruits, his laughter mixing with the clang of practiced swords. This land feels alive, he called out. We will make it sing with the call to prayer before the year ends. That evening, as stars began to appear over Rumelia, Evernos and Fatima stood together upon the unfinished tower. There may be resistance ahead, Evernos warned gently. Local lords still loyal to old powers may test us, but with Allah's help and your brother's example, we will meet them with strength and wisdom. We will, Fatima replied, her voice filled with quiet determination. For our child, for the empire, for the future that Arhan Sahib fights to create. Back in Iodos, as night deepened once more, Arhan Sahib walked the battlements alone, the weight of leadership heavy upon his shoulders. The conquered fortress lay quiet below, torches flickering in the hands of watchful guards. He raised his hands in prayer, voice low and sincere. O Allah, the turner of hearts, the granter of victories, you have delivered Iodos into our hands. Grant us the wisdom to rule it justly. Protect my sister and her husband in Rumelia. Let no betrayal take root among us as it did with Yakid. Guide our steps as we carry this light further. Abdul Rahman and Elena met again in a quiet garden courtyard that had survived the siege. They spoke of small things at first, the repairing of wells, the distribution of grain to the hungry, the stories of soldiers on both sides who had shown unexpected mercy. Yet beneath their words flowed deeper currents. I have much to learn about your ways, Elena said. Your faith, your sense of honor, it feels different from what I was taught. Abdul Rahman smiled faintly. And we have much to learn from the knowledge you carry. Together, perhaps we can build something lasting, not as conquerors and conquered, but as servants of a higher justice. Their conversation was interrupted by Tarhan, who approached with urgent news. "My Sultan, scouts report movement in the eastern passes, remnants of the Shahanshah's forces, perhaps joined by outsiders seeking to exploit the chaos. They may attempt to retake supply routes." Orhan's expression hardened with resolve. "Then we answer quickly. Barhan Faladios take 300 riders at first light. Abdul Rahman, you will accompany him with your knowledge of the terrain. We will not allow the shadow of the old regime to return." The next dawn saw Barhan and Abdul Rahman riding out at the head of a swift column, banners streaming behind them. Elena watched from the walls, her heart heavy with new worry for the man who had become more than a simple warrior to her. "Bring him back safely," she whispered to the wind, "and may justice prevail once more." The column moved through dense forests and narrow passes, the land still bearing scars of previous battles. Barhan rode with fierce purpose, his rivalry with Yaqid now transformed into unyielding loyalty to Orhan. "These remnants think they can strike while we celebrate," he growled. "They will learn the price of challenging the new order." They encountered the enemy force at a narrow river crossing by midday. Steel clashed once again as Ottoman riders charged with disciplined fury. Abdul Rahman fought at the forefront, his axe rising and falling with precision born of faith and experience. "For Orhan Sahib," he cried, "for the justice we have won." The skirmish was sharp but decisive. The enemy remnants were scattered, many choosing surrender when they saw the mercy offered. Barhan stood over a captured leader, sword raised but not striking. "Your old master is finished. Join the new dawn or face the consequences." As the sun began to set on the battlefield, Abdul Rahman cleaned his axe by the river, thoughts drifting back to Elena. "This victory is small," he told Barhan, "but each one strengthens the foundation we build." Barhan nodded. "And each one tests us. The road to Rumelia and beyond will demand more. But with Orhan Sahib leading us and men like you beside me, we will carry the light forward." Word of the successful patrol reached Iodos by nightfall, lifting the spirits of the garrison. Orhan Sahib offered fresh prayers of gratitude in the central mosque, now cleansed and reopened for all who sought the Almighty. "We have taken Iodos. We have defended it. Now we must expand what we have secured, prepare the main host. In 7 days we march toward new frontiers, linking our strength with Evernos and Fatima in Rumelia." In the quiet hours, Abdul Rahman returned to Elena, dust-covered but victorious. "The threat is diminished," he said, "but greater ones will come. Will you stand with us through them?" "I will," she replied, her hand briefly touching his, "for the justice I have seen in you and your sultan." Far away in Rumelia, Fatima and Evernos received the news with joy. Their fortress grew stronger daily, a new jewel in the expanding crown. "My brother advances," Fatima said softly. "Soon our two efforts will meet and become one." The stars wheeled overhead once more, watching over Iodos, over Rumelia, and over the hearts of warriors, princesses, and rulers alike. Victories had been won, yet the greater epic continued. New alliances formed, old wounds healed slowly, and the eternal balance of honor, faith, betrayal, and destiny turned onward. Orhan Sahib's campaign was far from over. The empire expanded. Justice marched. And the story of these lands, written in blood, prayer, and steel, prepared for its next unfolding chapter beneath the same eternal sky. As the days turned into weeks within the secured walls of Iodos, the fortress began to transform from a monument of fallen pride into a living beacon of new order. Orhan Sahib walked the repaired battlements each dawn, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the distant valleys where green fields stirred under the gentle breeze. The call to prayer now echoed 5 times daily from the cleansed minaret, its sound carrying across lands that had known only fear for too long. Tarhan remained ever at his side, a silent pillar of strength, while Barhan Faladios led disciplined patrols that brought in small bands of former defenders who chose allegiance over exile. One evening, as golden light bathed the central courtyard, Orhan gathered the captains and the newly appointed local elders. "We did not come to destroy," he declared, his voice carrying the weight of destiny, "but to lift the yoke that crushed the innocent. Let every man, woman, and child within these walls know that justice has arrived. Taxes will be fair, disputes will be settled with truth, and the oppressed will find shelter here, regardless of their blood." Among those listening was Princess Elena, now dressed in simpler yet dignified robes, standing beside Abdul Rahman. Her presence no longer caused whispers of suspicion, but quiet nods of respect. She had spent her days speaking with local families, translating customs, and helping organize stores of grain for the hungry. Abdul Rahman watched her with growing admiration, the bond between them deepening like roots taking hold in new soil. "You have given me purpose beyond survival," Elena said to him later that night as they stood upon the eastern terrace where their story had begun under starlight. "My father's world was built on fear. Yours offers something I never knew existed, mercy that does not weaken strength." Abdul Rahman turned to her, the torchlight softening the hard lines of his warrior's face. "It is not my mercy, princess. It is the Sultan's vision, guided by the Almighty. You have shown your own courage many times over. The way you opened the gates that night, many brothers owe you their lives. I owe you more than I can say." Their hands brushed in the shadows, a quiet moment stolen from the demands of empire. Yet even as affection grew, duty called louder. Scouts returned with troubling news. Remnants of the old regime had gathered in the eastern mountains, joined by opportunistic lords seeking to exploit the transition. Shahanshah's distant allies whispered promises of gold and revenge. Orhan Sahib listened to the reports in the war chamber without anger, only resolve. "Then we meet this shadow before it grows. Barhan Faladios, you will take 400 riders. Abdul Rahman, lead the vanguard with your knowledge of the passes. Tarhan, secure the fortress in our absence. We ride at first light." The next dawn broke clear and sharp. The column rode out beneath fluttering banners, hooves thundering across the land like the pulse of an awakening giant. Abdul Rahman rode at the front beside Barhan, his axe secured to his saddle, mind focused yet thoughts drifting occasionally to the woman he had left behind. "She watches from the walls," Barhan noted with a rare smile. "A Byzantine princess who helped deliver her own father's fortress. Fate writes strange verses, my friend." They found the enemy camp nestled in a narrow valley 3 days later. The remnants, desperate and poorly supplied, had chosen ambush over open battle. As the Ottoman riders entered the pass, arrows whistled from hidden ridges. Tarhan's earlier training proved its worth. Abdul Rahman raised his shield, intercepting deadly shafts while roaring commands. "Form ranks, push through." Barhan Faladios charged like a storm unleashed, his sword flashing as he led the breakthrough. For Orhan Sahib, for the justice we carry, the clash was fierce and personal. Former Byzantine captains who had once served the Shahanshah now fought against their old comrades, steel singing against steel in the dusty valley. Abdul Rahman fought with measured fury, his axe cleaving through resistance, always seeking the enemy leader who still clung to the old ways. In the heart of the melee, the rebel commander, a scarred veteran loyal to the fallen Shahanshah, faced Abdul Rahman directly. "You serve a foreign sultan who will discard you when convenient." The man spat, swinging his blade wildly. Abdul Rahman parried and countered with precision. "I serve justice and faith. Your master offered only chains. Today those chains break forever." His axe struck true. The rebel fell, and with him, the heart of the resistance crumbled. Many survivors threw down their weapons, kneeling before the superior force and the mercy they had heard rumors of. That night around the campfires in the conquered valley, Barhan approached Abdul Rahman. "You fought like a man protecting more than just land. The princess, she has changed you." Abdul Rahman stared into the flames. "She reminds me that even in war, light can be found. When this campaign ends, I will ask the Sultan for permission to protect her future, if she will have it." Barhan clapped his shoulder. "Then fight harder, brother. The empire needs men with both steel and heart. Back in Iodos, Princess Elena waited upon the battlements, her heart restless. Despina stood with her, now a trusted companion rather than a mere servant. "He will return," Despina said gently. "I have seen how he looks at you, not as conqueror but as a man who has found something rare." "I pray it is so," Elena whispered. "I have given up everything familiar, yet I have never felt more alive." Word of the victory reached the fortress by swift rider on the 5th day. Orhan Sahib, who had remained to oversee governance, offered public prayers of gratitude in the central square. "Allah has granted us another triumph. Let this news strengthen our resolve. We build not only fortresses but a realm where the call to prayer brings peace." When Abdul Rahman and Burhan returned triumphant, leading captured supplies and new allies, the reunion was quiet yet profound. Abdul Rahman found Elena in the garden courtyard at dusk. Dust still clung to his cloak, but his eyes were clear. "You are safe," she said, relief washing over her features. "Thanks to Allah and the brothers beside me," he replied. "The eastern threat is broken. Now the Sultan speaks of marching to link our strength with your brother's efforts in Rumelia." In the grand council that followed, Orhan Sahib laid out the next phase with visionary clarity. "Iodos is secured. We leave a strong garrison under Tarhan's command. The rest of us will ride west to join Fatima and Evernos. Together, we will solidify the new frontiers and prepare for greater expansion. Burhan Faladios, you will command the rear guard. Abdul Rahman, you will ride at my right hand. Princess Elena, your counsel on the roads and customs will be invaluable if you choose to accompany us." Elena bowed. "I choose it, my Sultan. Let me serve the justice I have witnessed." Preparations began in earnest. Caravans were loaded, horses rested, and prayers intensified. In Rumelia, Fatima Katan received the news with radiant joy. She stood with Evernos upon their growing stronghold, her belly now clearly showing the promise of new life. "My brother comes," she told him, voice filled with emotion. "Iodos is ours, and soon our two efforts will become one great shield for the empire." Evernos placed his hand over hers. "Then we will greet him with walls worthy of his victories. Our child will be born into a stronger realm. We have honored the trust placed in us." As the main host prepared to depart Iodos, Orhan Sahib addressed the gathered warriors and people one final time beneath the open sky. "We leave behind a fortress reborn in justice. We ride forward to expand the light. Let every step be taken with honor. Let every prayer be sincere. Allah alone knows the end of this road, but we walk it with clean hearts and strong faith." Abdul Rahman and Elena rode near the front of the column as it moved out at dawn, their horses side by side. The wind carried the banners forward, green and white against the rising sun. Behind them, Iodos stood proud under Ottoman protection. Ahead lay Rumelia, new challenges, and the endless march of destiny. Yet even as they advanced, distant clouds gathered on the horizon. Whispers reached them of greater powers stirring across the seas, old empires uneasy at the rise of this new force. Shahanshah's scattered allies plotted in hidden courts. The road would not be easy. Orhan Sahib rode at the head, eyes fixed on the future. "The conquest of Iodos was but the opening verse," he murmured to the wind. "The greater epic awaits." And so the host marched onward, a river of steel, faith, and hope flowing toward Rumelia. Hearts beat with purpose. Bonds strengthened in the saddle. Prayers rose with every new sunrise. The war for these lands had entered a new chapter, one of consolidation and expansion, where love, duty, honor, and the will of the Almighty continued to weave their eternal tapestry beneath the same watchful stars. The struggle endured, the empire grew, and the story marched on. As the great column departed from the secured gates of Iodos, the morning sun rose like a divine witness over the transformed fortress, casting long shadows of horses, banners, and determined warriors stretching toward the western horizon. Orhan Sahib rode at the head upon his powerful steed, his cloak billowing in the wind. his face set with the quiet resolve of a man who understood that victory was never final, only a pause between greater trials. Behind him stretched a formidable host, hundreds of riders, supply wagons creaking under fresh provisions, and engineers tasked with strengthening every outpost along the way. The call to prayer had been performed at dawn within Iodos's walls, and now its echo seemed to follow them across the hills, a constant reminder of the higher purpose guiding every step. Tarhan rode close to the Sultan's right, ever vigilant, his sharp eyes scanning the ridges for any sign of ambush. "The men move with strong hearts, my Sultan," he said, voice low and steady. "Iodos stands secure behind us. Tarhan will hold it like iron until we return or send new orders." Orhan nodded without turning. "You have earned that trust, Tarhan. Guard the light we have kindled there. Let justice continue to bloom where fear once ruled." Further back in the column rode Barhan Faladios, commanding the rear guard with fierce discipline. His rivalry with the fallen Yakid had left its mark, not in bitterness, but in a deeper, unyielding commitment to honor. He rode with sword loose in its sheath, ready to meet any threat that dared test the Sultan's march. Near the center, where the dust rose softer and the pace allowed conversation, Abdul Rahman guided his horse alongside Princess Elena's. She rode with quiet grace, no longer the sheltered daughter of a fallen ruler, but a woman who had chosen her own path through fire and conscience. The wooden medallion he had once given her still rested against her heart, hidden yet ever present. "The road to Rumelia is long," Abdul Rahman said, his voice carrying over the steady rhythm of hooves. "Yet with every league we cover, the empire grows stronger. You left much behind in Iodos, princess. Does your heart regret the choice?" Elena turned her gaze toward him, the morning light softening her features. "I left chains I no longer wish to wear. My father's throne was built on fear and manipulation. Here, beside you and your sultan, I have found something worth following, honor that does not demand blindness. I pray only that Allah grants me strength to be worthy of this new life." Abdul Rahman's hand brushed near hers as their horses walked close. "You have already proven your worth many times over. The gates you opened that night saved more souls than any single charge. Whatever lies ahead in Rumelia, know that I ride not only for the Sultan, but with the memory of your courage beside me." Their words wove together like threads in a greater tapestry, spoken softly beneath the louder sounds of marching men and creaking wagons. Invocations to the Almighty rose periodically from different parts of the column, soldiers seeking protection, guidance, and victory in the days to come. The journey stretched over many days, through dense forests where scouts rode ahead to clear paths, across rivers where bridges were hastily reinforced, and over hills that tested both man and beast. Each night, campfires bloomed like stars upon the earth, and Orhan Sahib walked among his warriors, offering words of faith and encouragement. "O brothers," he would say, standing before the flames, "we do not march for land or glory alone. We march because the oppressed cry out and the tyrant's shadow still lingers in distant valleys. Hold fast to your oaths. Let honor guide your blades and mercy temper your victories. Allah sees every heart." One night, as the column rested in a wide valley, a small band of local villagers approached under white cloth, seeking audience with the Sultan. They spoke of harsh lords still loyal to the old regime, of stolen harvests and broken families. Orhan listened with grave attention, then dispatched Barhan Faladios with 50 riders to bring justice to that corner of the land. The fierce commander returned before dawn with the oppressors bound, and the stolen grain restored to the people. "Tyranny has no place where the Ottoman banner flies," Barhan declared as he presented the captives. The Sultan ordered fair trials and just punishment, reinforcing the reputation of mercy tempered with strength. Through it all, Abdul Rahman and Elena's bond deepened in stolen moments, conversations by the river's edge during halts, shared prayers at sunset, quiet understandings that needed few words. "I was raised to fear your people," she confessed one evening as they watched the stars emerge. Yet I have found among you more honor than in my father's entire court. And I have found in you a heart braver than many who carry steel, Abdul Rahman replied. Whatever fate writes for us in Rumelia, I pray it allows us to walk this path together. Weeks passed before the hills of Rumelia rose before them like a promised land. The air grew fresher, carrying the scent of pine and distant sea. Scouts rode ahead and returned with joyful news. Fatima Cotton and Evernose awaited with banners raised high upon the walls of their growing stronghold. The reunion was profound. As the column approached the rising fortress, horns sounded from the towers and gates swung open in welcome. Fatima stood upon the main rampart beside Evernose, her hand resting protectively over her rounded belly, her face radiant with emotion. Evernose, strong and purposeful, raised his sword in salute as Orhan Sahib rode through the gates. "My brother," Fatima called out, descending swiftly to embrace him the moment he dismounted. "Allah has delivered you safely from Yodos. We have heard of your victories and your mercy. This stronghold is but a humble beginning compared to what you have achieved." Orhan embraced her warmly, then clasped Evernose's forearm with firm respect. "You have done well, sister. And you, Evernose Sahib, the foundations you have laid here will support the empire's future. Together we will make these lands a shield and a beacon." That night, a great feast of unity was held within the growing halls of the new fortress. Torches burned bright as commanders from both campaigns shared stories of Yodos and the frontier struggles. Barhan Faladios spoke of the final duel with Yakid, his voice heavy with the lessons of loyalty. Abdul Rahman recounted the secret passages and the courage of Princess Elena, who sat with quiet dignity beside him, earning respectful nods from all present. Fatima drew her brother aside later under the starlit sky. "I carry new life within me, my sultan, a child who will grow knowing the sacrifices made for these lands. Your victories give us hope, but tell me truly, does peace finally settle upon Yodos?" Orhan's expression grew solemn. "Peace is a fragile flower, sister. It requires constant tending. We have secured much, yet whispers reach me of greater powers across the seas who grow uneasy at our rise. Shahanshah's scattered allies still plot in hidden courts. The work is never finished." Evernose joined them, his voice steady. "Then we will build stronger here. Our walls rise daily. With your host joined to ours, we can push further into these territories and establish outposts that will guard the heart of the empire for generations." The following days were filled with intense labor and planning. Orhan Sahib, Abdul Rahman, Barhan Faladios, and Evernose rode together surveying the surrounding lands, choosing sites for new watchtowers and supply roads. Elena offered valuable knowledge of Byzantine customs and old alliances, helping to identify potential friends and hidden threats. Her integration into the Ottoman circle was now complete, a living symbol of mercy triumphing over enmity. One crisp morning, as they stood upon a high ridge overlooking vast green valleys, Orhan Sahib addressed the assembled captains. "What we have achieved together, Yodos secured, Rumelia strengthened, is only the foundation. Greater tests await. We must expand with wisdom, not haste. Justice must travel with every banner we raise. Pray harder, my brothers. Hold your oaths tighter. The Almighty who granted us these victories will guide the next steps." Yet even as celebrations echoed through the growing stronghold, dark clouds gathered on the distant horizon. Scouts brought reports of a large force assembling in the northern passes, remnants reinforced by foreign mercenaries, drawn by promises of gold and revenge against the rising Ottoman power. Shahanshah's influence, though broken, still poisoned distant minds. Orhan Sahib listened to the reports without fear, only deepened resolve. "Then we prepare. Abdul Rahman strengthened the forward outposts. Barhan Faladios ready your elite riders. Evernose secure our rear. We have not marched this far to yield to shadows." That night, as fires burned low and prayers rose once more to the heavens, Abdul Rahman walked with Elena along the unfinished battlements. "War calls again," he said quietly. It seems peace is always just beyond the next battle. Elena touched the medallion at her neck. Then we face it together. I have chosen this path. Honor, faith, and you. Whatever comes, I will not turn back. Far below, Orhan Sahib stood alone, gazing toward the north where new threats brewed. O Allah, the protector, the wise, you have brought us here. Grant us strength for what lies ahead. Let our swords defend the innocent. Let our hearts remain pure. The empire expands, but only by your will. The winds carried his prayer across the hills of Rumelia. Banners fluttered in readiness. Swords were sharpened by firelight. Hearts beat with renewed purpose. The conquest of Iodos had opened new doors, and the union with Rumelia had strengthened the whole. Yet the greater war continued, its fires never fully extinguished, only banked for the next inevitable clash. Love had blossomed amid the ruins. Alliances had been forged in blood and mercy. Faith had guided them through darkness, but destiny's wheel turned without pause. New enemies gathered. Greater challenges tested the limits of honor and courage. And under the same eternal stars that had watched their journey from the beginning, the epic of Orhan Sahib and his devoted warriors marched onward, its next verses waiting to be written in steel, prayer, and the unyielding will of those who refused to bow before tyranny. The road ahead remained long. The struggle endured, and the light they carried would face many more shadows before true peace could dawn. As the winds of Rumelia swept across the high ridges, carrying the scent of pine and distant rain, Orhan Sahib stood upon the unfinished tower of the growing stronghold, his silhouette carved against the gathering clouds. The fortress below hummed with purposeful activity, masons laying stone upon stone, blacksmiths hammering blades into sharper edges, and captains drilling warriors in the courtyards. The union of forces from Iodos and the frontier had swelled their ranks, yet the Sultan's eyes remained fixed northward, where scouts had spoken of shadows assembling in the narrow passes. New storms rise where old ones fall, he murmured, hands clasped in quiet reflection. But we do not yield to them. We meet them with faith as our shield and justice as our sword. Beside him, Evernos rested one hand upon the rough parapet, his gaze equally resolute. My Sultan, the northern lords have gathered nearly 800 mercenaries and remnants of the old guard. They fly no single banner, but whispers speak of gold from distant courts and promises of revenge for Iodos. They move slowly, heavy with supply wagons, but they come. Orhan turned, placing a firm hand on his brother-in-law's shoulder. Then we strike before they find firm ground. Prepare the host. We ride in 3 days. Barhan Faladios will command the vanguard. Abdul Rahman, you will take the scouts and find their weakness. Fatima, you will remain here with strong guard. This child you carry must know peace when he enters this world. Fatima, standing nearby with quiet strength, touched her belly and nodded. Go with Allah's blessing, my brother. We have built these walls with our hands and our prayers. They will stand. Bring victory once more, and let our child hear the stories of honor from your own lips. In the lower courtyards, Abdul Rahman sharpened his axe by firelight as the evening deepened. Princess Elena approached through the shadows, her steps light yet purposeful, the wooden medallion catching faint glints from the flames. She sat beside him, the warmth between them now an unspoken truth acknowledged by many. The scouts speak of hard fighting ahead, she said softly, her voice laced with concern. You ride into danger again, as you did beneath Iodos's walls. I have left my old life, Abdul Rahman, but I have not grown used to watching you ride away. He set the axe aside and met her eyes with deep sincerity. Nor have I grown used to leaving you behind, but this is the path we have chosen together. You opened gates for mercy when others would have kept them sealed. Now I ride to defend what we have begun. When I return, if Allah wills, we will speak of futures beyond war. A home. A life not defined by siege and shadow. Elena reached out, her fingers brushing his calloused hand. Then return to me. I have found more honor in your eyes than in all the courts I once knew. May the Almighty protect you as He has before. Their moment lingered, quiet and sacred amid the sounds of preparation, until Tarhan's approach broke the silence. The Sultan calls council. The scouts have returned with clearer maps of the enemy position. 3 days later, the host marched northward under gray skies, banners snapping in the strengthening wind. Orhan Sahib rode at the fore, flanked by Burhan Faladios and Abdul Rahman. Evernos commanded the center, his experience in these lands proving invaluable as they navigated forested valleys and swift rivers. The column moved with disciplined power, invocations rising at each prayer time, binding the warriors in shared faith and purpose. On the 5th day, they made contact. The enemy had taken position upon a wide, sloping ridge overlooking a narrow valley pass, their camp sprawling with mercenary tents and looted banners. Orhan Sahib surveyed the ground from a hidden overlook, his voice low and commanding. They outnumber us in raw force, but their lines are loose, their leadership fractured. Burhan, you will strike their right flank at dawn and draw their strength. Abdul Rahman, take 200 riders through the eastern woods and hit their rear supplies. Evernos, hold the center and wait for my signal. We fight not for slaughter but to break their will. Offer terms to any who lay down arms. As night deepened, the camp settled into tense readiness. Around low fires, men checked their weapons and whispered prayers. Abdul Rahman found a quiet moment with Orhan Sahib beneath an ancient oak. My Sultan, the Princess Elena, she has become dear to me. If we prevail here, I seek your blessing to walk a path of honor with her. Orhan regarded him with fatherly understanding. You have served with unmatched loyalty, Abdul Rahman. Hearts tested in war often forge the strongest bonds. If she remains true and you both walk in faith and honor, you shall have my blessing. But first, we must win this ground. Dawn broke with thunderous fury. Burhan Faladios led the first charge down the ridge, his voice roaring like a lion across the valley. For Orhan Sahib, for justice and the faith. His elite riders slammed into the enemy's right flank, steel clashing in a storm of sparks and cries. Arrows darkened the sky. Horses screamed. The mercenaries fought with desperate skill, but Burhan's relentless pressure forced them to commit reserves. At the same moment, Abdul Rahman's force burst from the eastern woods like specters, striking the rear camps with devastating precision. His axe rose and fell in deadly rhythm as he cut through guards protecting supply wagons. Flames soon licked at enemy tents and grain stores. Break their backbone, he shouted. For the Sultan, for the light we carry. The enemy commander, a scarred Byzantine noble backed by foreign captains, rallied his forces in the center, attempting to crush Evernos's steady lines. The battle swayed violently. Orhan Sahib himself entered the fray at the critical hour, his sword flashing as he led a decisive thrust. Allah is with us, he cried. Stand firm, my brothers. Let honor decide this day. The fighting raged for hours. Burhan Faladios dueled 3 enemy captains in succession, his blade claiming victory through superior skill and unyielding will. Abdul Rahman, fighting his way toward the enemy's command tent, found himself face to face with a massive mercenary leader. Their clash was brutal, axe against heavy sword, until Abdul Rahman's final strike brought the man down. With the rear in flames and flanks collapsing, the enemy lines shattered. Many threw down their weapons, kneeling in surrender as Ottoman warriors offered mercy. The enemy commander fled with a small remnant into the northern forests, but the bulk of the force was broken. By midday, the ridge belonged to Orhan Sahib. Orhan walked the battlefield as the sun climbed higher, offering prayers over the fallen and ordering care for the wounded of both sides. This victory belongs to the Almighty, he declared to his captains. Let it strengthen our hold on these lands. We have defended what we built. Now we expand it further. Burhan approached, breathing heavily but victorious. Their spirit is broken, my Sultan. The northern passes are open. Abdul Rahman returned from the rear, bloodied but unharmed, and found Orhan's approving gaze. You have served beyond measure today. When we return to the stronghold, we will speak of the future you seek. That evening, as the host began its return march, word reached the Rumelian fortress ahead of them. Fatima Khatun stood upon the walls with tears of relief, Evernose's arm around her. "My brother prevails again. Our child will be born into safer lands because of this day." When the column finally approached the stronghold days later, horns sounded in celebration. Abdul Rahman rode straight to Elena, who waited at the gates. He dismounted and took her hands openly before all. "We return victorious, and with the Sultan's blessing our path forward begins." Elena's eyes shone with quiet joy. "Then let us build something lasting amid all this war, a light that does not flicker." Orhan Sahib gathered everyone that night in the great hall. Torches burned bright as he spoke with prophetic weight. "We have secured Yodos, we have strengthened Rumelia, but greater horizons call. New alliances form in the west, threats gather from the seas. We rest, we rebuild, we pray. Then we march again. Honor must be our constant companion, faith our guiding star." Fatima placed her hand upon her belly as the child stirred, a new generation rising within these growing walls. Evernose raised his cup in toast. Barhan Faladios renewed his oath of loyalty, and Abdul Rahman and Elena sat close, their hands joined beneath the table, two souls forged together through siege and battle. Yet even as feasts and prayers filled the nights, scouts brought whispers of larger forces stirring far to the north and across distant waters. The fallen Shahanshah's name still carried poison in certain courts. The empire's rise had awakened old giants. Orhan Sahib stood once more upon the high tower as the stars wheeled overhead, his voice rising softly to the heavens. "O Allah, the sustainer, the conqueror, you have granted us these victories. Grant us also the endurance for what lies ahead. Let our children inherit not just land, but a legacy of justice and truth." The winds answered with the distant call of night birds. Banners fluttered in readiness. Swords rested but remained sharp. Hearts beat with renewed hope and quiet vigilance. The great epic continued, its fires banked but never extinguished as love deepened, alliances strengthened, and destiny prepared its next demanding chapter beneath the eternal sky. The struggle for these lands, for faith, for honor, marched onward without end.
Through blood and choice, stand tall, you are no longer traitors, you are brothers. To my original companions, Turhan, Faladios, Mahmud, Abdul Rahman, Mustafa, Tamir Boga, and all who walked with me from that first moonless night, you have carried this cause on your shoulders longer than any man should have to. Your sacrifices made this dawn possible. Today I ask you to continue not as warriors alone, but as builders and guardians of the peace we have won. He paused, letting the words settle. From this day forward we lay down the old hatreds. We offer justice where it is required and mercy where it is deserved. We will repair the roads, restore the villages, protect the weak, and teach the young that fear is not strength, faith and honor are. The forest that once hid us now shelters all of us. The mountains that witnessed our battles will now witness our peace. By the mercy of the most merciful, the most compassionate, let this meadow mark not only the end of war, but the beginning of a lasting order built on justice, mercy, and unwavering faith. A profound silence fell, then slowly swelled into a deep, heartfelt cheer that rolled across the meadow and up into the high valleys. Men who had once tried to kill each other now embraced. Tears flowed freely. Prayers of thanks rose louder than any battle cry ever had. Later that day, as the host began its march toward the clan's strongholds to deliver the news of victory and alliance, Orhan rode at the head with Turhan on his right and Faladios on his left. The three old warriors moved in comfortable silence for a time, the weight of years and shared memory between them. Finally Faladios spoke, voice thick with emotion. "I never thought I would see this day. I thought the arrows in my back would be the end of my story. Instead, they were only the middle." Turhan smiled faintly, "And I never left your side, not once. Some oaths are stronger than steel." Orhan looked at both of them, then at the long column of men, old enemies and old friends now marching together under banners of peace. "We began in darkness on a fog-shrouded ridge," he said softly. "A whispered oath to the wind. We end in light on this meadow. The Almighty guided every step. He tested us with fire and betrayal, with arrows and smoke, with the slow bleed in the woods and the final clash here. We endured. We turned enemies into brothers. We built something that may outlive all of us." He placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "Thank you, my brothers, for walking every mile with me, for never wavering, for reminding me, even in the darkest nights, that honor and faith are stronger than any tyrant's fear." Faladios and Tarhin bowed their heads in silent acknowledgement. As the column continued its march into the high valleys, the sun broke fully through the clouds, bathing the mountains in warm, golden light. The long, new epic that had begun with a single oath in the velvet blackness of a moonless forest night had reached its true, hopeful conclusion. The war of shadows and steel was over. The peace of justice and mercy had taken root. And the flame they had kindled so many years ago continued to burn, steady, quiet, and true, a light that would guide these lands for generations yet unborn. The forest slept peacefully. The mountains stood watch. The citadel and the valleys breathed freely once more. And the story of Arhan Sahib, Burhan Faladios, Tarhin, and the host of faithful men who turned darkness into dawn would be told around fires for centuries to come, a reminder that even the longest night eventually yields to the light when men choose honor over fear, justice over tyranny, and faith over despair. The end and the quiet, enduring beginning. Bags and cracked them open over a flat stone. Orders, troop rotations, supply schedules, and a final, frantic directive: press forward, burn the eastern valleys, starve them out, leave no grain standing. Arhan's jaw tightened. He turned to the captives. "You serve a man who burns children to feed his ambition. Will you ride for him again?" One spat blood and mud. "We are soldiers, we follow oaths." "Then follow a better one," Arhan said. He tossed the parchments into a small, controlled fire. "Swear to protect the innocent. Swear to fight only those who wield the sword against the defenseless. Do that and you eat with us tonight. Break it and you walk back to Karahan through the dark. Tell him what you've seen. Tell him we are not an army, we are a reckoning." The messenger stared at the flames, then at Arhan's face. Slowly he nodded. "I swear." The others followed. They were fed, given dry cloaks, and assigned to watch duty under Barak's supervision. By dawn, they would know the forest paths. By week's end, they would know the cost of betrayal. 10 miles east, Karahan sat in his command tent, staring at an empty message tray. 3 couriers were overdue. Scouts reported phantom movements in the tree line. Supply wagons arrived late, lighter than promised, or not at all. His quartermaster whispered of rotting grain, men trading armor for hardtack, and deserters slipping into the hills under cover of night. Karahan's fingers tightened around his iron goblet. "They're ghosts," he muttered, "but ghosts don't cut supply lines. Ghosts don't turn his own men." He stood, packing the packed earth floor. "Double the vanguard, burn the lower ridges, smoke them out." The order left his lips, but it felt hollow. The forest swallowed it whole. Back in the hidden camp, the messenger's words were already being woven into Arhan's strategy. Maps were redrawn in charcoal on stretched hide. Barak traced supply routes with a calloused finger. "He'll push harder now. Desperation makes men reckless." "Exactly," Arhan said. "Recklessness leaves